Good morning, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Welcome to the Metro Board's activities for December 11 of 2025. Thank you again for joining us today. Before we begin, I'll ask our Chief Safety and Readiness Officer, Jamie Johnson, to provide today's safety contact.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. During this season, we are subject to various weather conditions in the form of rain, sleet, snow, and ice. With such conditions, safety concerns can and do arise for our employees and customers. Metro platforms, escalators, rail cars, and bus surfaces can become wet and potentially lead to slip, trip, and fall injuries, or a lot worse. Being able to safely navigate all Metro's vehicles and facilities is always paramount, especially during the winter months. Here are some safety tips for safely navigating the system during the winter. First of all, plan extra time in your trip, as winter weather can disrupt transit. Metrorail generally operates normally in multiple inches of snow, but service changes may occur. Metrobus may operate on detours to avoid hills and other safety hazards, and Metro Access will modify service potentially as roadway and walkway conditions require. When navigating through rail stations, escalators, elevators, platforms, and buses, watch your step, do not rush, and pay attention to weather conditions and wet floor signs. Use extra caution when walking on exposed surfaces, i.e. those outside, including parking lots, station platforms, and bus stops, and never run for a bus or a train. And if you're traveling with children, hold their hand. Report any unsafe conditions or concerns to any Metro employee, like a bus operator or a station manager. And for additional information, see the severe weather section of the rider guide on womata.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Welcome to this meeting of the Board's Executive Committee. Since this is our first public meeting of the day, I'll ask Ms. Ellison, our Chief Board Affairs Officer, to please call the roll.
Chair Santos.
Present.
Vice Chair Smedberg. Present. Vice Chair McAndrew. Alternate Director Rye.
Present.
Director Lowe.
Here.
Director Alcorn.
Present.
Director Jarvis.
Present.
I'm Chair Yafkor.
Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. We have today's agenda in front of us for approval. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. Now to the approval of minutes. We have minutes from our last public meeting on November 6th and from the executive sessions of November 6th and 20 before us for approval. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented?
Just a quick question on that. Were the amendments I sent in shared with the full board?
Not shared, no. I just made I thought it was a correction, so I corrected it.
She corrected them.
I
Okay.
corrected-
Yeah.
She
So
corrected.
is the rest of the board aware of the corrections? Okay.
They're in the list. Shared.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Lowe, for clarifying. We will consider the minutes approved as has been updated. We have two items on our agenda this morning. First, the Inspector General has submitted the FY25 external audit and single audit. While the committee does not take a vote on the audit, I'd like to provide Ms. Samarin and our external auditors this opportunity to review any findings or provide any highlights. And then we'll have staff share public feedback on Metro's updated strategic transformation plan. And the committee will be asked to adopt the updated plan, which will guide Metro's strategy and actions through 2028. At this point, I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Samarin and to our audit team from RSM to begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I am Michelle Zamarin. I'm the Inspector General for WMATA. Today with me is Ms. Valerie Koloman from a partner at RSM. OIG retained RSM to conduct the fiscal year 2025 financial statement audit. The main objective of the financial statement audit was to determine whether WMATA's financial statements are free of material misstatements. I am pleased to report that RSM has issued an unmodified opinion on this audit. In other words, a clean audit. I'd like to thank our acting CFO, Mr. Tom Webster, and acting comptroller, Ms. Lisa Fitzgerald, and their staff for all the help and cooperation that was extended to OIG and RSM during this audit. That concludes my brief overview. If there are any questions, we welcome them from the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Samarin. Next, will be our Chief of Staff, Kimmy Feldbauer, and Jordan Holt.
Okay. Good morning, committee, Chair Santos and Vice Chair Smedberg and members of the committee and board. I'm Kimmy Feldbauer, Metro's Chief of Staff, and here today with my colleague Jordan Holt, Metro's Senior Director of Performance, to request board adoption of our strategic transformation plan, Your Metro, the Way Forward. Our strategic transformation plan was approved in February of 2023 and resulted in major improvements across Metro. We saw a 33% increase in monthly ridership, record high rail and bus customer satisfaction, and over 50% reduction in crime rates, and 35% increase in the amount of service delivered. This summer, we began refreshing our plan to reflect this progress and define the strategic direction for the next 3 to 5 years. Today, we will summarize the feedback we received and how it is reflected in the plan and share information about how we will use the plan to drive progress across the organization. For action today, we are recommending that the board adopt the plan and approve the public participation report. Metro is a public agency that provides a critical service to connect the region while employing over 13,000 people in our community. It is important that our strategic plan reflects the input of our stakeholders. So as such, we conducted a robust outreach effort with our board of directors, staff, and community members, as well as our regional partners, transit peers, and others to inform the updates and draft the refresh of our strategic transformation plan. Between October and December, we solicited public and staff feedback on the draft plan and received robust participation. Key themes we heard from the public and staff are around public safety, financial stewardship, and service reliability. And as we work toward implementation, we are continuing to focus on a customer service mindset while enhancing service and developing our staff with structured career growth and training. Metro's mission and vision remain the same. Based on stakeholder feedback, we focused the refresh on our 3 goals. Service excellence and talented teams continue from our current plan with some changes to the objectives. As an example, the plan adds the customer service mindset as a specific objective under talented teams. And we also elevated and expanded Metro's focus on achieving financial and organizational efficiency as a core goal. We added key results to the plan that define what world-class looks like at Metro, and we streamlined priorities to focus on critical programs under each objective, empowering our team to deliver on our ambition. We recognized regional partnership and long-term transit planning, that was a former goal, to be identified as a critical cross-cutting enabler across all 3 goals that we were moving forward with. And lastly, we've elevated continuously improving as a new guiding value and set new standards for customer service, including our internal processes. For the next few slides, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Jordan to discuss activation of our strategic transformation plan.
Thanks, Kimmy. So adoption is clearly not the end. It is just the beginning in terms of achieving the ambitions that we set out in this plan. So if we want to do that, we need to align our staff and financial resources to the priorities the plan establishes and hold ourselves accountable for through regular review and reporting. The good news is we have a strong infrastructure to build this on. Kimmy mentioned some of the results we achieved over the last 3 years, and so we'll be building on that internal infrastructure that we've established that led us this far. That includes regular reporting, both internally and externally, as well as a focus on moving forward with the 18 programs that are identified in the plan. Delving into a bit of the regular review and reporting, there is kind of a cyclical aspect to this that happens over the course of a fiscal year. If you kind of start in the top left, around January of each year, we'll provide a comprehensive report on plan progress. That's supported by specific goal and program level reporting that's aligned to kind of the pace of change that we would expect to see in those areas. I will have an asterisk here that you will not be getting an annual transformation report just in this January, because we've only just now adopting the report. So that will come next January. The regular evaluation of progress on key results and program implementation will inform resource allocation through the annual budget process, which has a feedback loop then to the annual target setting and refinements to programs. So all of this is to ensure that we're continually progressing to be that world-class agency that the plan envisions.
Thank you, Jordan. Chair and committee members, this is our last slide today, and we would like to propose a recommendation where the board adopts the values, mission, vision, goals, objectives, and key results established in WMATA's strategic transformation plan. Upon adoption, staff will work to implement through initiatives designed and executed by the general manager and chief executive officer. And with that, thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Feldbauer. Does anyone have any questions for the team? Director Lowe?
Well, technically, I'm not on the executive committee, so Joe should go first.
Thank you. I just want to say that this is an exciting opportunity. A wise state called the Commonwealth of Virginia put it into some legislation a couple of years ago that we should have a strategic plan. Maybe the plan shouldn't be every 3 years, but it is every 3 years. So you guys are updating it every 3 years. But just, reflecting on this process that we went through as a board over the last couple of months, it's truly impressive to see kind of where we were 3 years ago, the data-driven approach that we've taken to the assessment, but also more importantly, kind of in there putting reach goals of where we wanted projects, initiatives, programs, policies we wanted to achieve. And I think to the team, it's pretty impressive that we achieved a lot of those. And those were hyper ambitious. And thinking back 3 years ago that you put those in a document and said, we're going to try, and we did achieve many of them or move the ball up the hill on many is really impressive. So I just want to acknowledge that as we flip the page towards the next one, we've got some headwinds. Everybody has headwinds. We always have headwinds, but I think we're building from a base of strong foundation of where we're going to be heading. So just hats off to the team.
Thank you.
Director Smedberg and Director Lowe.
Thank you. Well, I was one of the instigators to get a strategic plan. We theoretically had one, but it was basically a cut and paste job. Let's just say what it was. Anyway, I really like this. I think it's really helpful, not only for the board, but for the organization in general. Whether it's every year, every 3 years, it's been a vast improvement. And Gordon, I agree with you. This is the beginning or the start of something that I think is going to be much better. But what does the annual update look like? Is it going to look like this, or is it how do you see that report, or Kimmy?
Yeah, it'll be, so we've been doing annual updates. There's one in 2024 and 2025. And it's kind of a way for us to comprehensively kind of look at where we have been and kind of how we've been continually improving. It's also a chance to kind of put together the pieces that you'll have received kind of updates throughout the year. So I think it'll be a presentation to the board, but also a written document.
Cool.
And I'll just add that the final report that is you have in front of you and that we're publishing today is also a reflection. It's over the past 3 years, but includes the annual report from the last calendar year in lieu of doing an official report since we did the update.
Yeah, and I also have to say, if anyone didn't know anything about Metro and they read this, they could understand it. It's straightforward. It's not wordy, overly anything. It's just, there it is. So I really like the presentation and the way it looks and the way it reads. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add to that and say that I think I would really encourage, anyone who's interested in the metro topic to make sure that they read this plan. It's short. It's very to the point. It's super readable. It's bold, but it also, it's so bold it's a little scary, but it also has a lot of very specific metrics that I encourage anyone who has an opinion to hold this board and this organization accountable to what's in this plan. I find myself like nervous, like as I say that, but I'm also excited because if people thought the last 3 years at Metro were transformational, the next 3 years, I think, have the potential to be even more transformational, just based on what's in this plan. And so that's just my teaser. Everybody got to read it. It's really worth cracking this one open, and it's not like it's some 500 pager. It's easy to get through.
No pressure, Randy.
Any more questions, comments, kudos for our team? Yeah, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge the communications part of it, the communications team, the news reports talking about the future of Metro. I wasn't expecting some of that, but I saw it, and I think that helped to add to the public's awareness. So I just wanted to also give the communications team a call out on that and say congratulations for using all of the social media and the news. And yeah, I thought very good job to help support this effort. Thank you.
Okay. And I would like to call for a vote on this item. So I move approval of our strategic transformation plan. Can I please get a second? Second. Thank you, Director McAndrew. I'll ask Ms. Ellison to please call the vote.
Chair Santos,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smedberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew,
Aye.
Alternate Director Rye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. With no further business to come before the Executive Committee, we stand adjourned, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. McAndrew to begin today's Finance and Capital Committee meeting.
Thank you, Chair Santos, and welcome to everybody to today's Finance and Capital Committee meeting. First order of business is to approve the agenda. I'd like to move to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any objections by members of the committee to the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, the agenda is approved as presented. Now to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of our November 20th meeting before us for approval. Are there any objections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll consider the minutes approved as presented. Thank you to this great team for coming before us today. We have two very significant and important items on our agenda today, so I'd like to provide a brief overview of the items we'll be covering before we go ahead and dive in. The first item on today's agenda will provide an overview of Metro's rail modernization program, which is Metro's vision for modernizing and automating the Metro rail system that includes technology dating to the early days of our operation. This holistic approach to modernization will allow Metro to provide a world-class transit that this region is after. That will then set the stage for the next item we get to cover. We're starting the annual dance around the general manager's proposed FY 2027 budget and the FY 2027 through 2032 capital improvement program, which will include a request for the board approval to get public input on the proposed service changes that are included in the proposed budget. So with no further ado, after a few weeks of delay, we are happy to go over the rail modernization program with everybody here today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair McAndrew, and good morning, Vice Chair Lowe and committee members. Andy Off here, joined by my colleagues, Ms. Empestado, our Chief Infrastructure Officer, Allison Davis, our Acting Executive Vice President for Planning and Performance, and Mr. Mark Irvine, who you may have not met before. He's our Senior Director for Strategy and Policy, and I think, as you'll see throughout the course of this briefing, has done most of the heavy lifting, as we'll, unveil a few of our business case quantitative statistics that we think are, fairly compelling. So that said, I can't express how excited I am to be here before you today to, present what I would suggest is probably the most transformational proposal Metro has pursued since the opening of the rail system, almost 50 years ago. As noted in the STP, there are, many things we're pursuing to get better, and I think as you'll see throughout the course of today's briefing, this program certainly touches on each one of our pillars of our strategic transformation plan. Every transformation is designed around addressing, a problem or a shortcoming, although we are doing, extremely well, in every category, safety, reliability, delivering more service, and taking measures to be more cost effective. The mission of continuous improvement never ends. And we want to lead, the country in getting better. And we believe this proposal, simply allows us, to do that in a very transformational way. Certainly from a safety perspective, 2 hours ago, very unfortunately, had a, trespasser up at Rockville. Do not know, the state of the individual at this point, but, platform screen doors is something we think is going to help reduce that risk. And certainly, as we'll talk about today, there's also extreme benefits from a safety perspective for our employees, very important certainly to us, as leaders of the organization. From a reliability perspective, I think it's been well noted, that our signal system is old, analog, outdated, and we are way behind, the rest of the world. And, unfortunately, here in the United States, certainly behind. From a capacity perspective, there are many initiatives to improve capacity. We would argue that there is none other more effective or efficient than this initiative. When you look at costs of brick and mortar jobs around the country, it's simply, not something we think is in the best interest, of the organization. And this is certainly a very effective way to squeeze every ounce of capacity out of our existing infrastructure. And certainly, I think what we're most proud of is a proposal that not only improves, safety, reliability, and capacity, but we believe also has the potential to help us bend our operating curve and change our cost structure in a sustainable way for the decades to come. So I just talked about kind of the ends or the outcomes, the means of the program, which, certainly the team are going to dive into here, really revolves, the baseline is, the signal system. We're moving to a communication-based digital train control system. It is an absolute marriage, between the fleet, rail cars, and the wayside to make this happen. Two fundamental elements of this transformational program. Changing our stations. And I think at the end of this briefing, we'll share some more specifics around what we believe is the best way ahead to advance this in a meaningful way. And then certainly changing the way we operate, perhaps in an automated way to deliver more flexible and consistent service. And here I will be followed by my friend and colleague, Ms. Empestado. Teresa.
Thanks, Andy. So I'd like to advance the slides, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. No worries. So by a bit of background on terminology, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. I know we have reviewed this before, but I feel it bears repeating. Metro uses the phrase automation in several contexts. And in this presentation, we'll reference the grades of automation in accordance with an international standard of 4 different levels, grade of automations 1 through 4. Metro was designed and is currently operating as a semi-automated grade of automation 2 system. So despite its name, automatic train operation is only semi-automated. The system controls the movement of the train, and the operator is responsible for closing the doors and supervising that system. Our ATO system, like all grade of automation 2 systems, cannot operate without an individual on every train present and able to take control of the train. Between 2009 and 2025, Metro operated at a grade of automation level 1. That's a fully manual operation where the train operator is responsible for all decision-making and movement of the train. As part of our analysis, we've evaluated the potential to transform Metro into a fully automated grade of automation 4 system, where systems and technology are responsible for running all aspects of the day-to-day operation for trains. And we've laid out a pathway to move from our current grade of automation 2 to an eventual grade of automation 4. So it's no secret that Metro has a long-standing history of embracing automation to deliver safe, reliable, and efficient service. When we first began our operations in the 70s, ATO was cutting-edge technology. Part of our effort to return to ATO was to take advantage of the design capabilities of our system. That includes automatic door operation, 75 mile per hour train speeds, and ATO. This enables safer speeds, smoother acceleration and deceleration, and reduces variability in the rider experience. At the same time, we're looking for ways to embrace benefits of technology to make our operation more efficient. Separate and apart from the advancements that we're pursuing on the signaling front, we're seeking to overhaul and modernize our inspection programs. We're going to automate our track inspection processes and augment our visual inspections with those conducted more frequently and more in-depth with automated systems. This will allow us to operate with greater speed, greater accuracy in terms of our inspection return processes, and really understand and better predict our maintenance procedures and needs. We're happy to brief the board in the future on all of those efforts. But today we're going to present our rail modernization program relative to signaling technology and train operations. That program is really going to ensure that we're ready for the future and we can continue providing that great service that we provide today. So looking at our peer systems around the world, full automation is the new global standard, both for newly built systems as well as retrofit modernization of existing lines. And as depicted on this slide, it's a truly global trend. Every system on every continent that is starting are considering automation. Until recently, the United States was an exception to this trend. Beginning in 2023, the Honolulu system opened as an automated system. That was the first automated passenger system in the United States outside of airport operations. And just last month, the Honolulu system opened an extension of that line. That is currently the only system in the United States, again, outside of airports, that operates in an automated function. The transit operations paradigm, as you're looking to modernize your system, you often view opportunities for system renewals, such as signals or fleet, as an opportunity to plan for your capability upgrades. So it's clear, and we've discussed in the past, that Metro's signaling system has an urgent need for replacement. It's a system-wide need, and it presents a really unique opportunity. In recent years, we've made significant investments in upgrading our traction power systems, our track and structure systems, but we've not invested in our signaling system to the same degree. We're now planning to start that investment, and we're planning to start it on the Red Line for several reasons. The Red Line is the oldest of our trunk lines. It has the smallest footprint of all of our trunk lines, and it's operationally isolated from our other services. This is in keeping with Metro's similar sequence with the return to auto doors and the subsequent return to ATO. Begin with the Red Line, and then proceed across the system informed by the lessons learned on the deployment across the red line. This will allow us for faster modernization throughout the system. So having laid that baseline, I'd like to turn to the 4 key elements of the rail modernization program: signals, stations and platforms, and operations, as well as fleet. Most modern transit systems rely on communications-based train control to manage their train operations. This technology enables real-time train positioning and detection. Signals and fleet investment, as my colleague Mr. Off noted, are tightly intertwined. And unlike older systems that demand on wayside equipment, modern systems, modern fleets and signals now shift much of that technology on board the trains themselves. That means that in order to implement CBTC, Metro's rail cars will need to be equipped with that type of technology to stay aligned with modern standards. And what better time to begin that effort for migration than the procurement of a new fleet? Additionally, with regard to stations and platforms, passenger safety is, of course, as we've stated, one of our top priorities. Many advanced transit systems do include platform screen doors, as depicted on the slide, and that creates a physical barrier between customers and the tracks. There are other options to include obstacle sensors or intrusion detection programs in areas off platform, but most standard installation of a CBTC system that seeks to increase automation would utilize platform screen doors. And lastly, with regard to operational paradigms, there's really a generational level shift of how you're managing your service in a fully automated rail transit system. You're shifting decision-making, oversight, and ongoing command and control to a centralized control system that's in your control center, and your train frequencies will be adjusted dynamically based upon demand and positioning, rather than a fixed schedule informed by wayside assets. So really, we're now enabling real-time moving shifts in our ability to provide ongoing throughput and expand our capacity. The sequence in which we're planning to implement this program also clearly matters. So as we've stated, now is the ideal time for us to align our signaling system and our fleet. That's really the first step to provide the foundations for future efforts, which includes additional levels of automation. Platform screen doors would rely on the precision and reliability of the signaling system in order to gain maximum benefits. And investments in automating our operations would build on both the signal and fleet modifications, as well as the enhancements made to our stations and platforms through additional protection systems. Now, each investment here has independent and cumulative value and benefits, both to Metro and to the region. So it's helpful to consider a comparison between Metro's current track circuit-based control system and future communications-based system. So as we've mentioned, our train control system was state-of-the-art in the 1970s, and it relies on thousands of track circuits and bonds that are across the railroad right-of-way, connected by miles of copper cable that all feed back to a train control room. By comparison, modern CBTC systems have a much smaller infrastructure footprint, and they instead rely on wireless communications technology interfacing with the equipment on the rail cars. So this smaller footprint not only increases reliability, it also improves the safety of Metro's workforce by reducing the need for our workforce to enter the railroad right-of-way for maintenance or inspection purposes. It includes built-in redundancies to ensure reliability and to enhance safety. So as many of you have seen, some of Metro's train control rooms really are an element of history. Our legacy train control systems, each of those 3,500 track circuits feed back to one of these electromechanical rooms as depicted in the left-hand picture on the slide. What will happen as we migrate to CBTC is we'll obviate the need for those electromechanical rooms, and we'll replace them with computer-based systems, much of which would be centrally located at our integrated command and communications center. That will allow us to reimagine our maintenance procedures, as well as to have more direct interface with the status of the system and have built-in redundancies that improve our diagnostic capability and our reliability. So at this point, I'd like to pass the torch to my colleague, Ms. Davis, to dive deeper into the business case for modernization. I'll turn it over to you, Allison.
All right, thank you. So as we've been working over the past couple months, really figuring out the costs, the benefits, how we would implement rail modernization, rail automation, we've done a lot of work looking at the reliability, safety, and efficiency and capacity of that. And so my colleague Mark Irvin and I will walk through that. But if we think about it, right, as Andy and Teresa talked through, we have done a lot of work to maximize what we have today, right? So that gets back to, launching full ATO on all lines last summer, moving to the full design speeds, as we continue to do service increases, which we'll talk about during the budget presentation next. Those are all things that we're doing now to really maximize what we have today. And so in most worlds, it's like, all right, then it's time to expand the system. We need more capacity. But we are really focused on how do we modernize that system we have, right? And so that's where we get the most bang for the buck for efficiency, most bang for the buck in terms of capacity, and we get to do this system-wide. And to note, there are lots of examples and case studies of peers in the appendix in this slide deck, but that's what sets a good groundwork for expanding the system, right? Lots of our peers, as they expand, are really doing it through automation, and that's what's making it pencil out and work better. All right, so we assessed really how we could do this, right? Because just like every good planner, you look at, do we just maintain? How do we push forward? And then look at expanding or modernizing. And so thinking about this in those 4 buckets of safety, reliability, capacity, and efficiency, it's really thinking, yes, we could maintain that existing signaling system. It would be expensive. It would be maintaining something that is put in the 70s and actually built on older technology than that. And so, yes, that will get us, I think, some improvements in reliability, but it doesn't really impact the safety, capacity, or efficiency. As I said, we could expand the system, and that helps on the key lines wherever we are expanding. So that gets that capacity check, and it does some work for reliability, but it really doesn't, get the full range of improvements. And so that's where the modernizing really comes in. And that's really the only approach to get to those big improvements in safety, in reliability, capacity, efficiency, and noting that it is full system-wide. So thinking about the safety component. So my colleague Teresa talked about the improvements for reliability, but really thinking about from a safety perspective, that is improving or preventing access to the rail bed, and that is really helping to make sure that there is a hard line between customers and our trains. And so that's where those platform screen doors come in. We'll talk about that a bit later. But that's that physical barrier, that's trash, that's people, that's everything that is moving between the platform and the track. But it also helps us reduce that human error. And finally, it allows, for anyone who's been on one of these elsewhere at airports, the trains come in at full speed with those platform screen doors because they're not worried about any interaction between customers and the train. So those all come together to improve safety. And platform screen doors really provide those standalone benefits. So this is an image from Paris, but again, examples of this are across the world. And it's really focused on how we get that physical barrier. And I will say that, our research with peers have noted that the lines that have the platform screen doors, talking to peers, they have a much higher customer satisfaction because people just feel safer and there is that separation. An example we had is Copenhagen. So in 2002, they launched their fully automated metro line in 2002. Underground stations had platform screen doors. Above ground stations had intrusion detection systems. And about 10 years later, so about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, they went through and updated all the above ground stations with platform screen doors, right? The sensor systems were not as reliable. They were having false positives. And so it was really a way to incrementally move forward with that fully automated operations. Turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Allison. So system capacity isn't just a single number. It's driven by a number of factors that are listed here. Throughput is one factor, along with yard capacity, station dwell time, and fleet availability. For example, we can run up to 24 trains an hour through the core of a line, but are typically limited to turning 15 trains an hour at terminals. And we're also limited by rail cars or yard capacity in certain parts of the system. So in practice, this means overall capacity on a line can be limited by whichever of these constraints hits first. Modernization is a chance to reduce multiple constraints that limit Metro's capacity by moving trains faster and more efficiently through the system. Modernization can change the operating cost structure for Metro Rail as well. It doesn't just enable Metro to provide more capacity, it can also reduce the marginal cost of providing extra service. Metro, like all rail transit systems, has high fixed costs and low variable costs. About 80% of Metro Rail's costs are fixed, meaning they don't vary with service, such as maintenance of track and infrastructure. And the remaining 20% are variable costs that change with service level. So with full automation, we expect Metro can reduce these variable costs by up to 41%. And what that means in practice is it lowers the cost of adding service, making it much more feasible and economical to run really good all-day service to the system, and as well as increasing capacity. And looking at the red line specifically, modernization can deliver benefits both to Metro directly and the region. Benefits to Metro include the reduced operating costs, the value of higher ridership, and more reliable service. And these are things that would directly affect Metro's budget. But many of the benefits are regional, including the value of time saved for customers from speeding up service and reducing wait times and delays. The benefits also include lives saved from platform screen doors, separating customers from the tracks. And these benefits are significant. Full automation would deliver up to $27 million a year to Metro and up to $93 million a year to the region for the red line alone. And modernization will significantly boost Metro's performance. Investment in signaling upgrades, platform screen doors, and automation will increase throughput from 24 trains an hour to more than 30, giving customers more frequent service. Automated operations will also raise on-time performance to as high as 98%, while cutting down on signal-related delays. And these improvements translate importantly into faster cycle times, meaning moving trains faster through the system and lowering the costs of running a certain amount of service. So it makes the entire system more efficient. Safety will also see major gains. Installing platform screen doors is expected to reduce fatalities and trespassing incidents by 80 to 100%. Modernization has several natural increments, as Teresa touched upon, and each of which has independent value. First, installing a modern signal system and then investing in platform screen doors. This chart shows how capabilities increase when moving from CBTC to full automation. CBTC by itself can achieve much of the increased capacity and reliability, but the full benefits, including the majority of the safety and efficiency benefits, require full automation. I'll now turn it over to Allison to discuss federal funding opportunities.
All right, so federal grants are available for this kind of work. Our peer BART in San Francisco was awarded back in 2020-21 a core capacity grant for CBTC as well as fleet and yard expansion. And so there is a process for how we can apply for federal funding. So in this plan, in the budget as we go forward, we are assuming that we are successful with that, and that federal grants could cover about 40% of capital costs. But there is, and anyone who's gone through the federal process before, there is a very clear step through, and so we are at the beginning. We have not entered the process yet, but this is part of that. This is looking at alternatives. This is talking to stakeholders and putting this into our capital improvement program. So it's all of this kind of comes together that helps us start those conversations with the FTA to get to that full funding grant agreement and ultimately start to build and put this in place. So as Mark mentioned, there are significant benefits, not just to us, but to the region. And that's typical of transit, right? I mean, we are carrying people to jobs, to shopping, to, see family and friends, and really providing that support to the region. And so this shows, this is red line only, right? We do have it also for system-wide, but this looks at an over 30 years, how do those costs, what are those costs, and then what are those benefits that accrue, and about 75% of them are to the region. So for us, it's really about cost savings, more efficiency, that sort of thing, and then ridership as well. And then to the region, it is lives saved, it is travel time, it is wait time, that transfer penalty that people feel of waiting to, transfer trains, transfer buses, that is perceived as a high penalty, and so there is cost savings to that.
Category of benefits that aren't directly captured by the program, and that's the capital cost avoidance. The efficiencies enabled by modernization can reduce certain capital needs going forward, and these fall into three main categories. There's the rail car purchase costs, the rail car rehabilitation costs, and the need for yard expansion. And to illustrate, these three red line modernization scenarios show how making service faster by reducing cycle time makes Metro more efficient. And the cycle time is reduced both by moving trains more quickly through the system and also by running more precisely and reducing the amount of time needed as buffer in the schedule at the end of the line when turning trains around. So this enables Metro to operate the same service with fewer trains and fewer rail cars. Likewise, modernization reduces the number of rail cars required for future service and capacity increases. A 3-minute headway on the red line with our current signal system would require expanding rail yards to fit 74 additional rail cars. That's the column on the right. And with automation, that number can be reduced to just 16 rail cars or 2 additional train sets. The difference of 58 rail cars, what does that mean? It has significant implications, reducing the life cycle and maintenance costs of rail car purchases by about $320 million. More efficient fleet utilization offers capital cost savings by avoiding the need to take on these long-term costs, and each rail car costs about $3 million to purchase and then has lifetime rehabilitation costs of about $2.5 million. When you combine the capital costs of each of these three categories, rail car purchases, the life cycle rehabilitation costs, and the capacity, you get a picture of how modernization can help Metro avoid future capital expenses as it looks to offer more service. So looking at the example of the 3 minutes on the red line, that service level, doing it with our existing signal system without any improvements would require us to add 116 rail cars to red line service and add 74 spaces to the red line to accommodate those rail cars above what we have today. And by comparison, full automation can deliver the same service capacity with just 58 more rail cars and a modest increase of storage capacity for 16 cars. Combining the costs and benefits, Redline automation breaks even for the region in 11 years and offers even greater benefits over the long term. Now I will turn it over to Teresa.
Thank you, Mark. So I'd like to speak for a moment on how we plan to sequence these projects across the system. For a high-level approach, we're proposing begin with the red line, as I previously stated, then migrate to blue, orange, and silver line segments, then lastly integrate our yellow and green trunk line. The red line, smaller footprint and operational independence, really does create an environment where it is the ideal starting point. It's an environment where we can design, install, and test these new systems while building experience that will help guide construction efforts, testing, and implementation efforts along the remaining lines informed by those experiences on the red line. For implementation and installing CBTC on the red line, we divide the work into manageable segments. We'd select those division points between segments to ensure smooth installation and testing. And we'd have those segment borders placed ideally at stations so that our operators can safely switch operating modes during the dwell time when we're in a mixed mode operation. Segmentation really only speaks to the approach of the installation and testing. The actual commissioning and start of our CBTC operations would likely include 2 or more segments at once. Our approach of phasing the implementation through incremental options gives Metro flexibility, both in the ultimate scope of our efforts and the implementation of platform screen doors, as well as the timing of those installations. As we gather more detailed information and our business case matures, we can further specify costs and benefits for each scenario that's depicted on the slide, as well as provide more granularity in terms of scheduling. So our modernization strategy is based on incremental investment in modern signaling, which then serves as the critical building block for additional investments in platform screen doors and automation. And the modernization program is a series of those investments. CBTC comes first and serves as the building block for modernization. Platform screen doors are then implemented, and full automation and investments in associated systems can be layered on top of CBTC and platform screen doors. And as we've stated before, each of these investments has an independent utility and value for the Metro system.
No, thank you very much, Teresa, Allison, and Mark. So, to wrap things up, certainly, appreciate the board's support. I mean, this has been an iterative process over many months where we've come forward to present, different versions of this as we've advanced our business plan. We feel like we're at the point, paper is good, but action's better. And we believe now is about, the right time to make a proposal that we can really, action and move forward. So I think as Mr. Webster and his team prepare to present the FY27, operating and capital budget, certainly we're looking forward to proposing, a red line transformation and solution, that would include, de-redlined, with adding 20 stations, with platform screen doors. So essentially, teeing up a solution that would run from, Grosvenor to Silver Spring, as we believe, as Teresa laid out, the cost benefit analysis there. So that would range, a cost of say 1.6 billion, with benefits, closer to, I believe around 6 billion. So we believe that's, a good starting point, to get into this and really start advancing a meaningful solution that can advance our strategic transformation plan and, get after doing better, safety, reliability, improving capacity, and doing all of that in a more cost-effective way. So Chair, Vice Chair, that concludes our briefing, and certainly turn it over for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, team. That was great, and I think really shows the maturation of our effort and our education and our strategy. I have a few thoughts, but before I do, open it up to questions. Paul?
Thank you. Teresa, a couple quick questions, and I think, Allison, I think this is something you covered. You talked about the power system. I know we've had a lot of power upgrades over the last 4 or 5 years. There's a lot of talk about power recently. Do we need to do additional upgrades to our power system to implement some of the things we're talking about?
So we've been taking a look and have performed several studies. As part of our CBTC efforts, we will continue to evaluate, but at this point, we do not believe that we have any need for significant upgrades to the power system. We had this in mind when we performed those prior updates. So any work would be incidental at most.
Okay. And one of your last slides, you talked about granularity. How long will that granularity take as we're going into budget season? What, 6 months, a year, 2 years? I mean, what's the general sort of scope of or timeline for that?
Go ahead, sir.
I can tell Andy might be, maybe, if we could get that question maybe refined a bit. I think all of us are struggling with how to answer. Are you asking what staff is proposing on rail modernization and connected to the budget?
No, I think this was with the slide 36. Was that?
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
okay. So maybe Andy can reiterate what he just said. So it just happens timing. Remember, we were going to do this last month, but now it's now and in the next conversations, GM proposed budget. But as Andy mentioned, if you look at 36, the piece that is platform screen doors between Grosvenor and Silver Spring is what Tom will have in the capital budget as part of the GM proposed budget for the board's consideration. And so we've looked through all the cost benefit analysis, and that is what is in the 6-year proposed. Obviously, it's past 6 years, but I think it's 600 million, if I recall, give or take, in the 6-year, and then the rest. And that is money, if the board approves and decides to make that decision, then we would go after that federal grant that we've been discussing. And if the board doesn't do that, then we wouldn't go after, obviously, the federal grant. So that's how they link between this presentation and the proposed budget.
So let me also.
If I describe that correctly.
Yeah. So let me ask an open-end. How important is the federal grant to this whole process?
I'll just say that we're not doing this program without the federal grant, and we can't get the federal grant if we don't put the local money. So we feel a decent level of confidence that we have a sweet spot here to go after this federal money in core capacity, and for a variety of reasons. And I think we all know that we have to do the signaling system one way or the other. The signaling system by itself will probably end up costing more local dollars than if we go for the platform screen doors and go for the federal grant. Right now, our thought process, not confirmed, is we would not get federal funding for the signaling system because it's not really part of what the program is supposed to be on the CIG program. So assuming we get CIG funding and we use our local money to go after that, overall local cost, i.e. cost of WMATA, right now our original thinking is it's less for WMATA to do the full integrated automated solution for our local money than it is if we just did signaling our own with no federal involvement. I hope I explained that.
Okay, well that's helpful. Allison, I think this was one of your slides, the communication system. I mean, that too is important. Obviously, we've all seen those rooms.
Yes.
Yeah. So what? Is there anything else we need to know about that?
So Chair, just to
I mean, we always talk about signaling, but it seems like the signaling and communication really go hand in hand, or maybe in your eyes they are one.
So the communication systems will enable communication between trains and primarily wirelessly.
Right.
There are other communication system assets that currently reside in those train control rooms. They're co-located with them. By reducing the number of train control rooms that we have an opportunity to ensure that we're placing our communication system assets in rooms that are ideally situated to maintain them. And what I mean by that is we have some train control rooms that are in challenging areas of the system. We can seek to relocate some of that equipment into areas that are in better shape and that are better equipped to handle some of those communication assets. We'll be primarily dependent upon wireless assets for the communication between trains. But overall, it'll be a smaller footprint for us to maintain, which will enhance the safety of our employees and increase the reliability of the system.
Okay. And one last question about the cost savings. Teresa, on your slide, you show the current devices that are in there, wires that are in the track going to the one little brick. Is part of that 41% cost savings, is that aspect of this project included in that? Is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So every time we have a legacy field-based asset go out of service, we spend a tremendous amount in terms of getting it back online. And those costs are felt through not only the immediate response, but also through ongoing maintenance requirements and long-term inspection and testing requirements. The fewer wayside assets that we have to maintain, the less time and resources that we will have to devote to the inspection and testing of those systems. We'll also have increased reliability by having the ability to monitor those systems remotely and have advanced diagnostic capabilities. So today, if a wayside track circuit goes down, we have to dispatch staff to the field who will physically enter the trackside and walk the circuit looking for disturbances, broken bonds, concerns, or issues, and they will have to visually and tactilely at times troubleshoot. Whereas when we move to the more advanced systems, we'll be getting internal diagnostic reports in our command center that are more informational, and we can drive to reset remotely, clear concerns or issues from a software perspective. And in the incredibly rare event that we do have to enter the right-of-way, it's more of a plug-and-play scenario than a manual adjustment scenario, which is what we currently have.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Lowe?
My current understanding of how modernization relates to state of good repair is mainly this like rotary phone analogy that keeps coming up, right? That it's like, well, first off, rotary phones, like, you know, while like nostalgic, you know, always had limitations, like even though, you know, like they were extremely reliable, like in one way, but there's like limits to what they can do and they require all these rooms. And then the rotary phone store is closing. So like we have to stop shopping there. Do I understand the full relationship between modernization and state of good repair? I am like seeking guidance on how to communicate to a wider audience, like to what extent this is something that we have to do if we want to have Metro Rail at all, versus this is something that is better and would achieve some capital savings and some operating savings.
So I can give you a partial answer and then I'll pass to my colleague from a purely technical perspective to extend your rotary phone analogy. A rotary phone performed one function, and it was a communication function. And that is what many of our wayside assets do. They perform functions in isolation, the layers upon which give us the ability to operate. In a CBTC environment, we can go from a rotary phone to an iPhone, where you can take essentially a dozen devices and put them in the palm of one person's hand by advancing the technology and asset capabilities. So moving forward will not only enable us to make repairs more seamlessly, it will expand the possibilities for us to make those repairs in an integrated manner, gaining the efficiency and enhancing safety and reliability.
Okay, sorry, that's really interesting, and I just want to make sure I understand that point. That like, to the extent to which state of good repair is like a state of mind, as much as it is like an actual reality that we're constantly striving towards, modernizing the signal system will actually make Metro Rail easier and more reliable to maintain in a state of good repair.
Unquestionably.
Significantly, I guess if I could add a comment, like I think what you're saying is, how would you explain it to someone externally?
Yeah.
I would say to someone externally that cares about the metro system, whether they use it or not, that for us to be in line with world-class best standards that everyone else in the world is doing, for us to break the cost growth curve that we are on, which I think most everyone believes is somewhat
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable. And we want to be at a higher level of efficiency, a higher level of safety, a higher level of reliability, and to ultimately solve our long-term capacity needs, which everyone knows are very significant, especially on blue, orange, and silver. This is the only solution. So that's the way I would describe it to someone is we could run the Metro Rail system as is in the concept of operation we have today with some new equipment, or we can transform and run the top in like best standard, and we get all of these benefits, including ultimately less money spent over time, and everyone's trips are faster, safer, and more reliable.
And so, like, historically, I've thought of state of good repair as like a backlog, basically, of like, I mean, and a front log, but like all of the stuff that like we should be doing, but that there's kind of like just this much like peanut butter to cover the bread or whatever. And so we're like running after like the most urgent things at any one given point in time. This to me feels like would it be accurate to say that it's like a more like a proactive or a transformative approach to the state of good repair by like reducing the size of the list and also changing like how we address the list?
Yes. So maybe a good, I'm kind of on the food analogy. When I was younger,
sorry about that.
when I was younger, it felt like someone would come to your house every once in a while and look at your fridge and your washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And now no one does that because you can actually control your fridge from your phone, and you could be in London controlling your fridge.
No, I'm not doing
that. Or your Nest or all that. That's what we're doing, right? So one, you're getting the state of good repair, i.e. you're getting rid of the backlog and the equipment that you're installing is modern. But to Teresa's point, the modern stuff allows you to do significantly more with that type of equipment than what you could ever get, which is going to lead to a very high level of condition-based maintenance practice, which means you need less people, less resources, less time to keep that asset in a much higher level performing.
Okay, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm not excited about the savings, because I'm totally excited about savings. But what is most interesting to me about what you're saying is that what this is really about is like, instead of a reactive approach to state of good repair where we're like in a hole and we're just like trying to stop ourselves from digging it deeper, or filling it on top of us, it's a more proactive approach in which we can actually get on top of state of good repair and it's not, instead of it being something that is like happening to Metro, it is a state of being that Metro is like manifesting and creating.
Sure, I think that is a great analogy. It's why every country in the world does it this way for a reason. And mostly they start off with is if you have less money, you have to do it this way. So because it's the only way to actually not get into a backlog of state of good repair. So if I have 5 things to maintain versus 40 things to maintain, I'm going to be able to have a higher trained workforce and a higher level of data quality to keep those assets at a much higher level of performance over time.
That's key. Okay, got it. I didn't mean to interrupt what else might potentially be said. I just wanted to be sure I fully understood that point.
Thank you, ma'am.
But and if you have anything to add, like please do.
No, I'm all
Okay.
set.
Great,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
We'll go to Director Alcorn and then Director Rye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So very good discussion. Thank you, Director Lowe, for fleshing that out. That I think was very helpful. One thought and then one question. I think overall, and this was earlier in the slide deck, the choice that we're facing, basically, do we go down rail modernization or do we go, we've been talking about system expansion in the past and, looking to do that. I just want to underscore what I think this is the correct decision. I know certainly in Virginia we have a lot of folks that would love to have rail service that do not currently, but we also have a lot of folks in Virginia that are looking to do transit-oriented development and are looking at investing around our rail stations. And that does not happen overnight. And that is typically a very long-term process. Sometimes it involves Metro property. Usually it does not. So optimizing, maximizing the value of rail transit for those stations is, I think, a very good decision for us to make as a board. So I'm very supportive of moving in this direction. I have a much more specific question, though, and I realize some of this may be crystal balling it, but going from CBTC to Grade of Automation 4, so that piece, I know we know about platform screen doors, but are there other significant components to that, costs, investments that would need to be made that haven't been mentioned yet, or is it like the iPhone analogy and it's really just a digital thing that is going to be necessary? What else besides platform screen doors?
Thank you very much. That is an excellent question. I'm really happy to be able to provide a little bit of technical background there. So CBTC will provide the foundation for high capacity, high reliability service. But advancing to GOA 4 requires system-wide upgrades beyond signaling, the most obvious and visible of which is platform screen doors, but it is not limited to platform screen doors. We will be looking at several key system enhancements, the second most notable of which will be a significant change and modernization to our operations control center. Advancing to a GOA 4 paradigm will fundamentally shift the role of the operations control center from overseeing train movements and remotely manipulating field-based assets to becoming a central command authority for operations, supervision, anomaly detection, incident management, and remote recovery. That's going to require some significant architectural, technical, and procedural changes, in addition to changing how we train, making augmentation in our staffing, and really addressing some human-machine interface change management needs. So the transformational benefits that we'll get will be significant, but we will also have to invest in some other wayside systems, the balance of which will be informed by our very diligent risk management efforts to identify in the safety case items that we would need to mitigate, detect, alarm, and alert that happen on the wayside system. So CBTC plus platform screen doors are two fundamental key building blocks, but there are still several other systems that we will need to evaluate in terms of closing risk that would augment both of those.
So if I could follow up, so it sounds like if any of those changes might require significant additional investment, maybe not, I guess at this point, or is it too early to know?
So there will be some investment, but another reason why we're looking at modernization holistically instead of in isolated elements, given the age of our system, any of the pre-existing systems that we have are facing that similar fork in the road, where do we replace in kind and have a relatively diminished return, or do we replace with a modern asset that will continue to drive us down the pathway towards the possibility of higher automation?
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Director Rai.
Thank you. Just first, kudos to the team on a robust strategy, and I appreciate the incremental approach to implementation to address disruptions, and you said to allow for learning in a real-world environment. And it's actually pretty amazing that Metro has operated as efficiently as it has without a modern signaling system. My question is really around workforce. Would it be correct to say that the needs would be a little different in terms of skill sets? We talked about advancing the system and some of the skills that would be needed to maintain it.
No, thank you for your question, ma'am. Absolutely. We look at this as a very positive opportunity to upskill our workforce and move away, from an analog-based, train control system, to a digital one, which is much more, akin to what's, normal in most people's worlds nowadays. So there are many, many opportunities, and, working with our team is going to be a huge part. I would offer one of the most important elements, of this program is working very closely with our team as we upskill, transform, create different types of roles, for the organization as we fundamentally change our operating model.
Thank you. So we do feel that retraining is an option for current folks who support the system as it stands versus rail modernization and being able to potentially retrain or reskill some of those folks so they can still have a job, but learn new skills.
Well, ma'am, I think we would offer management, it is necessary and an absolute requirement for us to do that. We owe that to the team, and it's the only way we're going to be able to do this successfully.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to the chair.
Thank you. A couple of different questions. I'm looking at slide, at least on the printout I have, it's slide 33. The headline is Modernization Allows Metro to Deliver More Service at Lower Cost. And there's mention of how investment in CBTC could result in savings in terms of our variable costs. Just to put some numbers to anchor this. So what are roughly, not precisely, what are roughly the variable cost, what would be the number, in other words? Because these are all percentage relative to whatnot, so I'm trying to get a sense of how much the savings are we're talking about.
Sure, I can take that. So at a system-wide level, we're talking about $20 million of savings in terms of traction power, and up to $38 million in savings from like staffing and operating model efficiency.
Okay, thank you. And my colleague asked about something I was about to ask about. So is the assumption on the really helpful chart, let's see, page 42, which is the red line modernization delivers billions and benefits to region. And kudos, by the way, in the presentation. It's very well done, easy to follow. It's fantastic. Is the assumption here, what is the assumption, I should say, about operating cost increase? You know, obviously this graph is showing something different, but what are your assumptions? So I'm hearing operating cost savings. Does that mean that costs will be flat, or are you still assuming that operating costs will increase over time?
Yeah, so I can take that. And the way we did the model is really in two parts. One is like, what are the changes internal to Metro? So what are the things that will affect Metro's operations, our performance metrics, things that hit Metro's budget, and then changes that are benefiting to the region that are more external. So in terms of operating costs, I mean, there's some things that would drive some cost increases in some areas and some that would drive decreases. And so what we did is we looked at, like, what does it mean overall? So the combination of running service differently, running more service, in some cases having new assets we don't have before. So we have platform screen doors, that's a new asset. So that has, you know, some cost for maintenance, but then we're also looking at, you know, a more efficient maintenance profile for a modern signal system. So that'll reduce costs there. And so we're really looking at netting it together. On the external side, that's actually a lot more straightforward than what we were doing internally, because we're using the standard method for measuring benefits for transportation projects. And that's the same method the federal government suggests for different modes, so transit, but also road projects, and just plugging those benefits into a standard model.
Thanks. I think what I'm trying to drive at is, will there be net operating savings?
Yes, there's net operating savings, both from an incremental perspective, about 41% just within the line, and that translates to across all of the rail operations, about a 5 to 10% savings.
Sounds great.
If I can share, I think what really important part is there could be net operating savings. We could have zero net operating savings, but in year, I'm making this up, what year are we in, 2032, the demand is so high that the board at the time with the staff says, we want to run a 3-minute service versus a 4-minute service. So yeah, we could save 10 million, but let's actually run that service, right? So it could be operating savings. Then the second part is the capital savings, to me, is also where it's very significant. We're not calling that savings, we're calling that deferment or avoidance, but that part is 100% guaranteed will happen, because over time we need to do something with our yards and we will have to grow fleet. And what we're really showing here is there will be an operating savings on that, but from a capital point of view, it's hundreds of millions, I think better part of $400 million. So if you're so for us, trying to look with our jurisdictional partners, in one way, I don't want to say it's operating versus capital, but their dollars to come to Metro overall down. And that's what we're trying to balance. So total life cycle analysis, whether it's operating capital depending on the year over the cycle, overall pressure is to go downward. So whether you're Fairfax, Montgomery, DC, whoever, it's to drive that curve. That's what we're trying to look at it. And right now we're at a model, and that will just evolve over time of which one dips depending on the cycle.
Sounds great. So for affirming, which is basically that this investment ultimately results in net efficiency in terms of our operations. And lastly is, what assumptions does the model make about ridership?
So what we're assuming about ridership is these changes will be a driver of ridership. So just making service faster or more reliable, offering higher capacity is going to allow us to drive about a 20% increase in total ridership over the long term, and allow us to carry about 50% more riders than today. And that's, I think, consistent with the experience of our international peers that we've talked to, where mostly where they're going, to the previous conversation, is finding ways to deliver more service with a given amount of resources. So grow service faster than they're, say, growing the size of their budget or the number of vehicles they have or the staff they have.
Thank you.
Perfect. So this is a great presentation. I don't want to take too much time. I've got a couple kind of targeted questions. One, we had an RFI recently out to industry. I imagine the response was great. I imagine it's somewhere tucked in here, but if you don't mind just summarizing kind of industry's response both to signals, but platform screen doors and approach, that'd be good.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So we received a robust response to our RFI, learned a lot of information about the larger industry's interest and readiness to support the next steps of our evolution in terms of our planning process. We were comforted by the responses to the RFIs in such that they didn't alert us to any concerns or issues that we were not already aware of. We didn't see that there were going to be issues with regard to the larger marketplace. So we were very pleased that the RFI ratified our temporal view of the market.
Perfect. And then I want to say the last time we were together talking about this issue in public was November, October. I think I'd asked at the time org structure, and just wanted to double back to that understanding. This thing takes off when we fully fund it, but there's good work and there's a robust team working on it today. So if you could speak to that a little bit, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly, I'm charged, with keeping the team connected and aligned as we move forward. Most up to date, we're currently working on job descriptions and currently, intend to hire, a program executive that would work for me, who would wake up every day and do nothing but think about delivering rail modernization. And certainly, like many large programs, there would be, let's say a fleet component, which is a, critical component of the modernization program. That said, they would have certainly a responsibility back to Leroy, and Stanley, our acting chief mechanical officer, and his team. So we certainly intend to build out a multidisciplined team that maintains all the functions to successfully deliver this, to include, coordination with the FTA. So you obviously need a lot of, CIG, funding experience in the commercial part, which is huge for such a massive program such as this. So absolutely focused on that, and is also a critical part of the FTA process to demonstrate that we have the bandwidth, experience, and commitment to make it happen.
Perfect. Thank you. With no further discussion, we'll go ahead and move on to, man, we really hit the agenda allotted time there, didn't we? We'll move on to the proposed budget. Thank you very much. That was a great discussion. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and keep this train on the tracks as close to schedule as we can. But to get us going, we'll hand it over to the GM to open us up.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before the team starts, I just want to really recognize how hard the team has worked on this. I just want to thank them. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they've been working very hard. I also want to thank the board for all the engagement on this. We joked earlier, we never actually stopped talking about budget. So this year's proposed budget, we started talking about in September, so now we're into December. Obviously, this is the proposed budget. Ultimately, the board will decide the budget at the end of the process, hopefully in April, and then we'll execute to that. A couple things that I really want to highlight here is, for the first time ever, we're showing a 3-year forecast, which is, some municipal governments around the country do that, but I don't think I've really seen any transit agencies in the United States do that per se. And then really like that we're moving to a 3-year service plan kind of forecast. And again, not perfect, but helps align really thinking about workforce available or needs, around fleet needs, and around predictability, not just for our organization, but our regional partners, especially the JCC and others that really kind of like to see that foreshadowing. What we are super focused on this year is, again, how do we can wring every dollar out of this place from an efficiency point of view to put back into ideally service and recapitalization. We've been pretty successful over the last couple of years, and last year we ended $120 million under budget. We do expect revenue to continue to go up because of the quality of service we are delivering and the economic activity in the region. But I think at some point we have to realize that proportionality of growth will certainly start to mitigate at some point. We've been on, quite frankly, a pretty good tear here for a couple of years. With that said, we are trying to come up with a balance of how do we do recapitalization and still do very, I would argue, minimal increases on service to really hit a little bit more target markets and gaps that are clearly existing, and other economic activity centers around the region that need that balance of service. If a little bit of what Board Member Alcorn mentioned, how to get little pockets that really don't have the proportional service of what they would really normally have if they were located somewhere else in the region. So trying to bring that regional kind of larger equity and economic impact with the system. So Tom is taking almost the operating side lead here. Allison is going to work a little bit on the capital side. So we'll talk about how we do the community outreach. And I think some people have the chance, but if you haven't, Erica Tompkins with us. And Erica works with Jim Sullivan and really runs all of our capital planning and does a fantastic job. It's a good chance for you to see all the quality work she does as well. So I'll hand it over to Tom. But again, just this is for us is really the end of the research part. And now we look forward to supporting the board as you work towards making a decision, hopefully again in April.
Thank you, Randy, and Chair McAndrew and members of the committee and the board. Again, I'm Tom Webster. I'm Executive Vice President and Acting Chief Financial Officer. I'm really pleased to be here presenting the General Manager's proposed budget and 6-year CIP. I do also want to emphasize this is a whole team effort. We're here presenting, but there are a lot of people at Metro and around the region with our jurisdictional partners that contribute to the development of our budget and capital program, and just a thanks to them for their hard work as well. So our strategic plan is, again, our guide for both short and long-term decision-making around the budget and the capital program and finance. Of course, the board is considering an update to this, but again, we've been using this process to highlight and prioritize investments both in the operating budget and in the capital program. And of course, a world-class metro is critical to the success of our region. Within a half mile of Metro's rail stations or bus stops are 2.8 million residents, 1.7 million jobs, and more than 134,000 businesses. So Metro's approach to developing the budget is focused on delivering more to the region through efficiency and providing the most value to our customers with the resources that we have available. When we have predictable regional investment and stable expense growth, Metro can serve and support growing ridership, generating more revenue for reinvestment in better service. Predictability also allows us to focus on managing expenses, modernizing to achieve cost efficiencies, and reducing our reliance on capital funding for operating preventive maintenance costs. So in that previous slide, that's really the model of how we want to operate and how we develop the budget. Here we're showing the results of that. We've adjusted our forecast from this past spring for the remainder of the current fiscal year, so FY26, and for FY27. And here we're displaying them as combined numbers for 26 and 27, based on our revenue growth outpacing expense growth. Revenue is predicted to increase over that 2-year period by 12% compared to what we thought back in the spring. And expenses are expected to only increase by 2%. Our reliance again on capital funding for operating preventive maintenance, we're forecasting to be down compared to what we were anticipating back in the spring by 13% over the 2-year period. And this is all assuming the same overall 3% growth in jurisdictional investment or subsidy for the operating budget. So again, the framework for our FY27 operating budget has a dual focus, identifying operating efficiencies and making strategic investments to modernize, to improve and enhance service, and reduce that capital funding for operating expenses. Continued ridership growth and parking will continue to drive revenue growth and support continued investment. Bus schedules, we're continuing to optimize to reduce the amount of deadhead or the amount of unproductive time that buses are out on the street. Automatic train operation efficiencies are now being fully incorporated into the budget now that we're in operation system-wide. So later this month, we will be implementing the new schedules that will gain even more efficiencies and cost reductions. There are continuing potential opportunities to further align our staffing with our modernization efforts. So we're making investments, and that changes the level of resourcing we need for different types of functions. We've discussed some examples of these. One of them is revenue collection and treasury operations, really modernizing the workforce and the deployment of people to match our current and future needs. And again, as we identify and achieve efficiencies throughout the system, we can reduce operating expenses. Lower expenses and operating revenue growth will allow us to reinvest in the system through service improvements. Service and fare improvements over the past several years have grown ridership and grown revenue. Ridership increased from roughly 81 million trips in FY21 to a forecasted 268 million trips by the end of FY26. A lot of that is due to improved service and an increasing regional travel. So Metro expects continued opportunities to grow ridership and revenue in the upcoming fiscal year. And so building on our FY25 and FY26 growth, factors such as stable federal employee ridership, convenient payment options now available with Tap Ride and Go, and increased fare enforcement and awareness will drive higher paid Metrobus ridership. Metro is also capitalizing on ongoing momentum with student and university pass enrollment, and that's part of what's driving our ridership growth trends. We're continuing to watch, of course, external factors, economic conditions, workforce changes, and general travel patterns, and continue, and my colleague Allison will discuss this a little bit more, but continue to be conservative in our ridership and revenue outlooks so that we don't cause budget challenges in the future fiscal year. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic. There are some potential headwinds, and we're finding a comfortable middle ground with our proposal and recommendation here. Now turn it to Allison for some discussion of service and ridership and revenue.
All right, thank you, Tom. So I'm excited to talk about these service proposals, right? Many years previously, we'd do some rail service changes over here, bus service changes over here, but really we are now, and we have been recently thinking about these things together, right? Frequency drives ridership. We know that. Trips are happening not just during the peak, but they're happening all day, late night, weekend. So how are we really driving that across the board for Metrobus and Metro Rail? And then also taking those efficiency gains, whether it's from ATO on rail or just our conversion to Hastis and the efficiencies that we're getting out of our scheduling software and the people who are running those schedules who are really looking to just make things work a lot better. So excited to say that the service improvement proposals that we have for 27 are, I think, pretty significant, and there's a lot to get excited about. Also flagging that the Metro Access Service Area, we are proposing as part of this to have it remain at the FY26 levels. So you'll see that also in the budget proposal. So for those of you who went on the Better Bus network redesign journey with us, you may remember we had a visionary network, and that was really putting a marker down to where we think bus service should be in this region. And so some of those things were, at least 30-minute frequency for across most routes. Many routes we were obviously doing a lot better than that, but it is noting that 60-minute frequencies are not where I think any of us want to be. Adding new routes, having a more region-wide 24-hour bus network, those sorts of things. And so this proposal for FY27, it is not all of that, but it is definitely pushing forward and kind of incrementally getting us towards that visionary network. So this is about 6% improvement on the existing network for Metrobus, and it's about a 6% increase to get us towards that visionary network. And obviously that gets more access to jobs, more frequent service, less time waiting for the bus, all of those types of things that as a transit customer myself, I want to see, and I know our customers do as well. So we learned a lot implementing the network. We are seeing in the data that from operations since June 29th, customer comments, talking to operators, right? We see where there is crowding. And that's not to say we are putting a marker down. Like we are continuing to look at that data, continuing to see what we need to be changing day in and day out. But that crowding, those runtime challenges, we're proposing changes for 27 there. We did, as part of the new network, we had to do some short turns, places that maybe every other trip is going to the end of the line, but we've had to do some short turns just to be within the budget that we had. So pushing those forward, that helps simplify routes, simplifies it for operators, certainly simplifies it for customers and gets that better service. And then obviously improving frequency. So I know this is a lot, but there's a lot of information in the appendix, right? Each one of these proposals talks about what is there today, has a map, and then what those proposals are. And so it really kind of breaks down into three buckets: improving frequency, enhancing routes, so that is some of those short turns, that sort of thing, and then intentionally changing service span for a couple key routes. So just a couple of examples. The C91 connects Georgetown University and Howard University, so kind of east-west across just above downtown in the district. When we launched in June, it was 20 minutes peak and it was 30 minutes off peak. And this proposal for 27 pushes that to be 20 minutes all day, all week, nights and weekends as well. So that improves that frequency. For route enhancements, right, the M12 in Maryland connects Twin Brook to Hyattsville Crossing, but those short turns that I had talked about, every other trip is only getting from Tacoma Langley to Hyattsville Crossing. So what this would do is actually have every trip do that full route from Tacoma to Hyattsville Crossing. And then from a service plan increase, we saw the A49 connects down Columbia Pike and Arlington into downtown, goes to Metro Center. We were seeing that first trip of the peak period, so whether it was AM peak or PM peak, that first trip was very crowded, or is very crowded. So we are adding, essentially creating the peak period to start half an hour earlier, adding that extra trip so that we can carry more passengers. On the rail portion, again, it's really focusing on that weekday, more frequent weekday service that gets us trains every 10 minutes all day before 9:30, and that's an improvement from every 12 now. So while 2 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, if you're in the core, you're now seeing a train every 3 minutes instead of 4. So it does really kind of trickle down to where our customers are riding. And then on the Red Line, we would see that more frequent late night service. We're starting to see a lot of crowding on trains from in the late night from 9:30 to closing. So it's moving to trains every 7 to 8 minutes from 10 minutes. So again, it's really trying to push that. And then in the peak period capacity, making sure we've got enough 8-car trains and we're making the best use of our assets. And as the general manager mentioned, this is our opportunity to kind of move forward and look ahead to 28 and 29. Last year, we kind of had 1 year at a time, and now we're going to that full 3-year look ahead. So this kind of shows, and next year, as we have more data, as ridership changes, these proposals may change, but this is a good way to think about where we are trying to go as we move forward. And the same could be said for rail. I will note that FY27, for the yellow line, every other train is going to go to Greenbelt starting at the end of this month, and I'm very happy about that, as are many customers. And so it's continuing that forward, but then obviously the proposals for 27 that I mentioned, as well as kind of starting to see where we can go for rail service improvements in FY28 and 29. So what does this get us? I think it's a more useful network. And, we are improving service on bus on 19 more routes. That's 15% of the total. We are making rail have better all day and late night service. So that is really pushing that usefulness for, anyone who's going out, anyone who's traveling kind of in those off-peak periods. And really, why are we doing this? We are increasing access to jobs, so that is a real, I think that 37% since FY20 is a real testament to a lot of the work that my colleagues are doing to push where transit is going, how fast we're getting the transfer time. All of that is why people take transit. They want to get somewhere. And so I think we're really leading on that. Okay, so as we look forward, right, as Tom mentioned, we're looking at a balanced growth, right? So we do envision continued ridership growth. I think to the general manager's comment, the trajectory of that growth has been very high the past couple of years, and so I think we're seeing more of a standardized look at that. And then these gains that we'll see from a ridership perspective for both bus and rail, I think will really help UPass looking at different options and expanding that to other universities in the region. And then finally, for Metrobus, paid ridership is moving in the right direction. Is it where we want to see it? No, but it is moving in the right direction, which I think is a good thing. We've got, with Tap Ride Go on both bus and rail, I think we've got a lot of opportunity there. And then that stable, steady growth of ridership for rail, which also then has revenue impacts. So as Tom mentioned, right, because this is the budget, we want to make sure that we are thoughtful about the ridership and revenue projections that we have in the budget, just so that at the end of the year there isn't a surprise of additional revenue that is needed. And so where we are right now with the 26, so we're about halfway through 26, the top line is revenue, so at about 660 million. And then, no, sorry, 506 million. Yes, 506. Clearly, I need my glasses. 506. Yes. Yes. With ridership at about 268, and it is moving up, kind of showing that that growth projection. Turn it back over to Tom.
Thank you, Allison. Continued fare modernization efforts and providing more ways to pay will continue to support growing Metro's ridership and revenue. So recent efforts like free transfers from between rail and bus, simplified Metro fares, and the general fare increase that was done back at the beginning of FY25, Tap, Ride, and Go. So examples of things that are in development now and under consideration by Metro or by our partners. A planned inflationary increase in FY28, so no fare increase in FY27 is included in this proposal, but an outlook for a potential fare increase in FY28. Parking technology upgrades, UPass program updates, VRE and MARC regional pass potential opportunities, and integration with the MTA or Maryland Transit Administration's Purple Line. There are some recommendations from the DMV Moves effort around incorporating our partner transit agencies in some of the products that Metro already provides today. And so we're progressing with some of those conversations with our partners. On the expense side, the FY27 proposed operating budget incorporates our collective bargaining agreements and other contractual commitments. It includes some of those efficiencies that I described around automatic train operations and bus scheduling. We are incorporating several efficiency efforts and the impacts of modernization efforts like revenue collection and treasury operations, and a couple of other, or a number of other initiatives across the agency. We have fairly significant cost growth in Metro access costs, both in terms of the rates and as well as increasing ridership, both in or in the Metro access network. So a pretty significant growth in Abilities Ride trips that's been ongoing, and we expect to continue into next year. Do also want to highlight for the board, we are definitely seeing some cost and expense pressures this year, as we discussed in the last committee meeting and in our quarterly update, that we expect will continue into next year and in the future, including inflation, particularly strong pressures on energy costs and the energy market, as well as pension and healthcare costs above what we had previously forecasted. So this is the table of the numbers, and it shows, again, as the general manager mentioned, our proposed budget as well as our multi-year forecast. So it's really a 3-year forecast for FY27 through FY29. Call the board's attention to a couple of things here. Very significant revenue growth year over year, in part because of that continuing ridership and revenue growth. So our forecast for FY26 considerably higher than the FY26 budget, and we expect that to hold. And then we're building on that. Again, there's an assumption of an FY28 inflation-based fare increase included as well. So that explains some of the increase from FY27 to FY28. We have expense growth, largely driven by some of those pressures I mentioned on the previous slide, energy costs, Metro access costs, and of course, our ongoing commitments that we have in place today. definitely want the committee to see our forecast for the use of capital funding for preventive maintenance. We are forecasting to use 84 million this fiscal year. That goes up to 126 in our proposed budget, but that 126 is about 9 million less than we had forecasted back in the spring. And then because of revenue growth and because of our anticipation of efficiency gains and cost reductions, we're forecasting to drive that preventive maintenance number down to the traditional 60 million level by FY29. So, and this continues to assume 3% subsidy growth and in jurisdictional investment year over year. So moving to the capital program, we've had
Tom.
Yes.
Do you mind if we summarize the capital slides? We've seen some element of those at DMV moves and otherwise, and then we, just in the interest of time.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think, yeah. So do you want me to just go quickly through them or not, or summarize them?
If you want to hit the high notes.
Okay, sure.
I think this is a very important one.
Yes, okay. So we are today proposing the 6-year CIP, and we have a number of slides here that show a contrast between if we continue with our existing and forecasted resources and a scenario where the DMV moves recommendation of 460 million of additional regional funding that's indexed and bondable becomes available in the FY28, FY29 time period. The contrast is pretty significant in that we will not have the resources needed to continue to maintain the performance and the state of good repair of the system at the levels we have today. So this slide deck steps through a number of examples. We can pick a couple, I think, to present here. But importantly, earlier we were talking about state of good repair backlogs. We do measure how much overdue capital work we have. And with additional regional investment, we expect to be able to keep that at a reasonable level for the performance of the system and to be able to sustain our current performance and improve upon that. Absent that, our backlog will grow rapidly across most of our assets in the system. Yeah.
And I just want to say, the slides are great, and I don't want to say that they are not worth the time, but I'm entrusting that my colleagues have reviewed the slides and can ask questions. But I'd like to ensure that we have some time to discuss. And since we are really we want to be reliable and maintain our schedule adherence as best we can, I'd appreciate us jumping forward. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jared. The last comment I'll make on capital, and Sarah will do a quick on public engagement, is we're also working on kind of a financial impact analysis on the cuts to the capital program. So obviously a capital program reduction of $800 million means that we're going to have less employees and we'll have less contractors doing work at Metro, right? Because the money, that's what it buys. And so we are doing an analysis right now to actually understand how many employees generally that could look like, and then how many contractors, therefore how many jobs across the region, by jurisdiction a little bit, and then the economic impact of those cuts. So what $800 million cut really could mean to the region, and frankly, where that balance is. So we hope to have that ready by early January to give to the board, or by mid-January to give to the board.
Sure. I just wanted to thank my colleagues for putting forth such a strong budget with so many improvements for customers, and thrilled to discuss our public hearing authorization for the proposed budget and capital program. We will be working through a robust communications plan that especially targets hard-to-reach customers, making sure our information is available on digital channels as well as on all of our trains, buses, and Metro Access vehicles so that our customers are well aware of the service enhancements and the overall budget information that is relevant to them. We will be asking to authorize at least one in-person public hearing as well as 2 online opportunities for the public to provide comment. And most importantly, our surveys, which is our primary source of feedback, which will be available in several languages. John, back to you.
So just to touch on the schedule just briefly here, we will be publishing the proposed operating budget and capital improvement program documents in mid-January in advance of the public hearing process. And that will include the detailed project pages for project and program pages for the CIP, as well as the jurisdictional subsidy allocation information. And then we'll continue with the budget deliberations with the anticipated adoption at the end of March or beginning of April. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. You guys are doing great work, and the accelerated pace through those slides is not in any way, shape, or form to undercut the good work that you all are doing. So appreciate it. With that, I'll go ahead and open the floor to questions, starting with committee members. Dr. Lowe?
I have a question about this slide, just as long as it's up. So are we collecting public input on both budgets? Because like one is like a rusted nesting doll inside the other one, and so we can just do the big one and then do the little doll if we have to?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, so the little doll includes rail modernization, which I think, may come as a surprise to some people who thought like, oh, we can only do that if we get more money. So I'd like to understand a little bit more about why the little doll includes rail modernization and where we found $600 million to support it, given how constrained the capital plan is right now.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe, for the question. Where we found 600 million, I
just
think,
lying on the ground.
Yeah. We, as you know, have been working to drive down the cost of delivering our capital program. We have carrying forward from last fiscal year into this fiscal year a substantial amount of savings from both operating cost reductions that allowed us to use less capital funding for operating costs last year, as well as capital cost direct capital project savings. That formulates most of the 600 million. We have also, again, forecasted a lower preventive maintenance this year, which allows us to drive money into that. There have been some projects that have been rescoped or rethought that also generated some cost savings.
Are there any like greatest hits there that I would be familiar with?
So let's see. Fair vending machines. We've reduced our total project cost estimate for the replacements of the legacy fair vending machines. That's one example. As far as why it's included in both versions of the budget, so the signaling system and rail modernization have been in our capital needs inventory and capital needs forecasting and capital needs prioritization the number one thing for Metro for years.
So it was actually already in the CIP?
It was not. We had essentially funding in the current CIP for development of the rail modernization program, but not for implementation. So what we've done with this CIP proposal is put that at the top of the list and put the $600 million of local funding in play to match, as was discussed in the last item, a potential federal grant. As General Manager said earlier, the project and the cash flow for the red line will extend beyond the 6-year period. So there's a little bit of nuance there, but essentially we've prioritized this above other needs.
So are there any like big ticket items that got cut from the 6-year CIP altogether in order to make room for this?
No.
So it was more just kind of like taking a little bit from, like taking the icing off of all the other cakes.
Yes, what the committee sees in those pie charts that we skipped over here is a reduction in investment in virtually every asset category, and in part because of the declining capacity of the overall program, but also in part so that we could program and get moving on the red line.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Director Alcorn.
2 quick questions. First of all, on the 8000 series option 1, you know, I'm not saying the red line isn't number 1 and we got to do the red line improvements, but on the timing of option 1, December 2026, is there any flexibility or are there any alternatives to that?
There may be some flexibility. Thank you for the question. In the deadline, working with our vendor, yes.
Okay, great. And then the other question, the subsidy table. When will we see the draft subsidy table?
So again, thank you for the question. We will be providing our jurisdictional partners and the board with a draft of that later this month, and then publishing it as part of the proposed budget documents in mid-January.
All right, good. Thank you.
You got something? All right, Chair.
At the risk of delaying, I just realized we're running very behind, so I'll shorten my list. Tom, could you please put in context? I noticed that our projected revenue is 650-ish for next year, and gross subsidy is 1960-ish, which I think my rough math is that's 25% of our operating budget is our own earned revenue. Roughly. Could you, because sometimes there's questions about, you know, why isn't Metro more self-sufficient? And I know my understanding is Metro's fare box revenues and other revenue is relatively high performing relative to some of its peers. Can you just frame that?
Yes, I think because of the nature of our rail fares and distance-based, we do have generally a higher overall fare recovery than many peers nationally. I think it would be higher if we had more customers paying on bus than do today. We are seeing some improvement in that as we reported in the last committee meeting, but the level of subsidy growth here would be lower if we had higher fare payment compliance on bus.
Thanks, but where I was going mostly was that Metro is generally outperforming its peers in terms of the percentage of revenue. Yeah, that's, thank you. And then relatedly, just a clarification point, during the last presentation, I had asked about assumptions about ridership growth, and I think your colleague, Mark, said that it was assumed to be 20% growth, but one of these slides said 8%. Which is it?
I believe in the last presentation, we were referencing the modeling around ridership growth over a 20-year period with rail modernization. This is our forecast for the period way before that implementation happens. So 2 different things.
So just to clarify, it's 8% over the next 3-year or 1-year period?
I don't have the exact math in front of me, but if that's...
It's fine. It was more just clarifying, is it 20%? I mean, it's just significantly different, so...
Yeah, different time frame. So I think the 8...
Perfect, thank you. You front ran my singular question that I was going to ask, and that was about fare evasion and the opportunity with folks paying fares getting better service. And so, my PSA for my board colleagues, but also to anybody that's listening, if folks pay fares, we can reinvest those dollars into better service. And so I think we have an opportunity, especially on the bus side, not just in better service, maybe some capital enhancements in terms of speeding up your bus so you're not sitting behind the cars on those congested roads as well. So I think if folks are willing and able, it is the expectation and they hope that you pay your fares because then you will get better service. And in return, we will all have a better region. And that's it for me today. I will get off the soapbox. But thank you, Mr. Webster, Ms. Meyer, and the collective team. This was great. I'd like to move approval of this item. Can I get a second from a committee member?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Smedberg. Unless there's any additional discussion, I'll ask Ms. Ellison to call the vote.
Chair McAndrew,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowe,
Aye.
Director Smedberg,
Aye.
Alternate Director Rye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passed.
Thank you for this great committee meeting, and my colleague in the Safety and Ops Committee for giving us time to shine today. But thank you, everyone, for some very good discussions. With no further business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned. We're going to take a brief break before starting up today's Board of Directors meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. I am Valerie Santos, Chair of the Metro Board. Thank you for being here today. We will begin with the approval of the agenda. I would like to consider the agenda approved as presented. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Thank you. We have 5 sets of minutes for approval. November 17, 2025, Joint COG WMATA Board Meeting. November 20, 2025, Board Meeting. December 1, 2025, Special Board Meeting. November 2025, Executive Session. December 1, 2025, Executive Session. I would like to consider these minutes approved as presented. Any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. We have a few things going on today. Well, more than a few things, but this afternoon we'll start off by recognizing an employee who, through her actions, represents the best of Metro. Our station supervisor, Stephanie Holmes. Supervisor Holmes, would you please stand? We are recognizing Supervisor Holmes today for assisting an elderly resident in distress and reuniting her with her family. A member of the family reached out to Metro and shared the following words. I am writing to express my sincere appreciation for the extraordinary compassion and professionalism demonstrated by Supervisor Stephanie Holmes. My mother, who suffers from dementia, unknowingly left the Shoreview nursing facility and somehow entered the Metrorail system while attempting to reach her late sister's home in Largo. During this distressing situation, she encountered Supervisor Holmes, who immediately sensed that something was not right and offered extensive assistance. Her quick thinking, empathy, and genuine concern ensured my mother's safety and provided immense relief to our family. It is not often that someone's humanity shines so brightly in their line of duty, and Supervisor Holmes exemplified that. Please extend our heartfelt gratitude and recognition for her outstanding service and compassion. With deep appreciation, the entire Jamerson family. On that day, through this incredible act of kindness and empathy, Supervisor Holmes represented the very best of Metro. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, we want to thank her for her exceptional service and commitment to the well-being of those around her. There we go. Next, we'll go right to hearing from our advisory bodies. So next up, we would like to hear from our Accessibility Advisory Committee Chair, Pat Sheehan. Pat, welcome.
I guess. Yes, here we are. Good. Thank you. It's good to be here this morning. I appreciate the discussions I've heard this morning also. I think going back to the AAC and giving them some of this good news will be good. They'll be pleased. I'd like to start off my report first with wishing the board happy holiday season and thanking all of you for the support that you have given AAC over the last year. We had a good year. A lot of it's thanks to the guidance and cooperation that we have gotten from you, from WMATA staff and the information they've been able to supply to us. So wishing you a happy holiday season and hoping that everyone's safe. Over the last 30 or so days, we have had an award ceremony for David Schaefer, who received the Hedinger Award at the beginning of December. The award was given to him posthumously and awarded to his son, his daughter, and his partner for all the wonderful work that he did within General Counsel at WMATA and also supporting the disability community in so many ways outside of the organization and the wonderful work that he did with the Office of ADA program. So that was a very good ceremony. We appreciate the fact that the AAC was able to have a thank you ceremony here that Dr. Butler put together along with the staff to thank the AAC for the work. And it's a real privilege to be able to serve the disability community and also the board going forward. So thank you for that. We have received an update and received a briefing regarding the restrooms that in late November. We expect an audit to be completed and a communication plan to be finished by the end of December. And we'll look forward to working with WMATA to implement where the accessible restrooms are. We know that we've got some on the Silver Line, Potomac Yards, and anyway, as far as getting that information out going forward, that's great. With respect to bus and rail, we have been doing a lot of work over the last month. I think we've seemed to have a real communication blitz in October, November, and I'm sure it's going to continue into December concerning signage and what's happening there. Huge thank you to Sandy Nozell, Philippa Moselle, Sarah Rott, and Janice Samuel, who've been working to evaluate signage along with Sarah Myers and the System-Wide Accessibility Office to help with bus flags, signage in general, and ensuring that signage is going to be accessible, it's going to be readable, it's going to be uniform throughout the system. We have a lot of work to do, but we have a great team of low vision individuals on the committee, and they are doing a great job to make sure that what we're seeing and evaluating is going to be usable, particularly by this population. But it is, as I'm seeing, consistent with what we're seeing also on the RAC side. So having something that's usable by that the low vision population and the system in general, I think is important. So kudos to that group. They've done an excellent job, and I'm looking forward to that going forward. I'm sure that will continue, in after January in 2026. Concerning Metro Access, we did receive a briefing from the Washington Suburban Transit Commission. We got a ton of data, which is going to be evaluated over the next couple of months. Within Maryland, we have seen, we're seeing Montgomery County and Prince George's County take an awful lot of the Metro Access trips, that we're seeing throughout the region. The reasons given basically had to deal with dialysis, adult daycare, and other initiatives within Montgomery County and Prince George's County. I'm a little concerned or a little surprised that, adult daycare, dialysis, and the needs of Montgomery and Prince George's counties are taking up so many of the trips. You would think we would be able to see the same type of needs within DC and Virginia. So I'll be interested to go through that data and see where we are and see what's going on with respect to that. We are looking forward to Lyft coming on board. We're seeing, of course, great service within the Abilities Ride program, and we continue to move forward with that. In 2026, I have a lot of things on my plate that I haven't gotten to in 2025. certainly the Prince George's County vision plan, transit vision plan, I need to take a look at that data, take a look at the implementation of how that's going to, what's going to be done, where it's going to be done. I was reading some older notes and realized that there was also a procurement in DC concerning DC bus stops and how they were going to be implemented, where they were going to be implemented. And I think there's supposed to be a fairly sizable amount in DC over the next few years. That got past me, so I certainly need to do that. And then looking at some of the recommendations, of course, going through DMV moves and seeing how we can make sure that accessibility is implemented within all of those. So I give you my 2026 to-do list so that you can hold me accountable for making sure that happens. I'm sure it will, because the committees, particularly the subcommittees that work within the AAC, the Bus and Rail Subcommittee and the Metro Access Subcommittee, are doing a real terrific job going forward. They supply me with the information that I need for this report so we can give that to you, and then you can ask questions of us. And that's my report for now. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Pat.
Good. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from the Riders Advisory Council. Representing the RAC today is the Vice Chair, William Way.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share the views of the Riders Advisory Council with you. I am William Way, as you noted, and I'm from Arlington, Virginia. At our December meeting, WMATA staff briefed us on the following topics: Metro Station Ahead Maps, Metro bus service changes, and bus and rail service improvement concepts for the next fiscal year. And we really appreciate the professionalism of the staff, including John and Jose, who are always providing great support to us. RAC members are very pleased with the bus and rail updates. Frequent and reliable service is the gold standard that our frontline workers need to get to work. We're also pleased to hear about how paratransit riders are enjoying the option to use Uber as an alternative under Abilities Ride, and apparently Lyft is joining as well. And, we need to watch that space as the aging population grows in the DMV area. Regarding the signage, there were some concerns about the readability. Concept is for the signs to be posted at Metro rail stations in a vertical poster format, listing every station from that station to the end of the line, starting with the station you're standing at the bottom and the end of the line at the top. So if you're at Shady Grove on the red line, you'd be looking at 26 stations stacked. This is our understanding anyway, with Glenmont at the top. So if you're short or sitting in a wheelchair or have poor eyesight, reading the higher station names might be a problem. I guess you could post a sign low so that a person of average height like me could see it. So anyway, but thank you for the opportunity to share our views. Also, we see Bryna here, and we thank you for the opportunity to work with her. She was wonderful, and happy holidays.
Thank you, and happy holidays. And now that concludes our advisory body reports. So next, we'll be recognizing some of our fellow board members for their service. First, Director Debbie Jarvis. Ms. Jarvis has announced that because she'll be moving outside of Montgomery County, she will be stepping down from our board effective December 31st. While her term of service has been brief, we've appreciated her experience and perspective as the board has worked on some very significant initiatives this fall. And I would like to move the following commendation. Whereas Debbie Jarvis has faithfully represented the state of Maryland as a principal director on the Metro Board of Directors since July 2025. And whereas Ms. Jarvis' distinguished service on the Metro Board will conclude effective December 31, 2025. And whereas Ms. Jarvis serves on the board's Safety and Operations Committee, and whereas Ms. Jarvis brought her significant background in corporate communications and governance to the board as it undertook updates to its strategic transformation plan and implemented other governance and oversight reforms. And whereas during her tenure, Metro advanced planning and design work for the most far-reaching modernization plan since its opening, developing plans to upgrade the Red Line, which serves Montgomery County, Maryland. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Metro Board of Directors offers its sincere gratitude to Debbie Jarvis for her service and leadership as a member of our board, and be it further resolved that the Metro Board of Directors commends Ms. Jarvis for her dedication to enhancing safety, service quality, and regional mobility for benefit of all WMATA customers and the region. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Rye. All in favor? Ms. Jarvis, would you like to say a few words?
Well, it has been my pleasure to serve on this board, to serve with you all. I was just getting my, my bearings and understanding what's going on. But I do know one thing, it was evident from day one, is that the dedication of the board, the general manager, and all of those who work on a daily basis and beyond at Metro. It has been my honor and my pleasure to serve, even so briefly. And I thank you all, and I wish you continued success.
I just wanted to make a comment, Board Member Jarvis, on behalf of the whole staff. I mentioned this yesterday, and we were together yesterday, and it was, let's just say it was a little chilly. But she mentioned that she's from Michigan and it wasn't that cold. But she also had a jacket on that was like 50 layers deep. But I just want to say on behalf of the whole staff, thank you for your service. It wasn't as long as we'd all like, but I enjoyed all of our conversations and specifically your insight around communications. I know our communications team really appreciate that as well. So thank you for caring about this organization. We wish you the best on your future endeavors.
Next, we'll be recognizing our federal board members whose terms ended in September of this year. I'd like to note, just to underscore how well these board members worked as a team, it took us until this meeting to find a date because they all wanted to be recognized at the same time. Director Sarah Klein, we'll begin with you. Whereas Sarah Klein faithfully represented the federal government as a principal director on the Metro Board of Directors from September 2021 until September 2025. And whereas Ms. Klein's distinguished service on the Metro Board concluded effective September 7th of this year. And whereas during her tenure on the board, Ms. Klein served on both the Finance and Capital and Executive Committees, including serving as the Vice Chair of Finance and Capital Committee from September 2023 to June 2025. And whereas as Vice Chair, Ms. Klein provided steady leadership through the significant challenges of Metro's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and Metro's extraordinarily challenging budget cycle for FY25. And whereas Ms. Klein's extensive knowledge of federal funding landscape helped Metro identify grant and other funding opportunities to improve physical assets and ensure that Metro can offer safe and reliable service for the region for years to come. And whereas during her service on the board, Ms. Klein demonstrated transit works best when it works for everyone, exemplified by her focus on ensuring that Metro Access riders receive the same quality service they deserve, and championing the introduction of a flat fare for Metro Access paratransit service to give riders predictability in scheduling their trips. And whereas throughout her service on the board, Ms. Klein fostered collaboration between the board and Metro staff and promoted a spirit of dialogue based on shared understanding and grounded in shared values. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Metro Board of Directors offers its sincere gratitude to Sarah Klein for her exemplary service and leadership as a member of our board, and be it further resolved that our Metro Board of Directors commends Ms. Klein for her dedication to enhancing safety, service quality, and regional mobility for the benefit of all WMATA customers in the region. Can I get a second?
I'll second, but I thought it was a fair cap and not a flat fare.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe with an asterisk. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Klein, would you like to say a few words? Come to the
Thank you. Is this on? Yes. Thank you so much. Honestly, listening to the resolution, talking about all of the things that we've gone through together as a team over the last 4 years is just kind of amazing to think of all those things. When I came back here today, I was reminded of just how honored I was to be able to serve with all of you. Every meeting, when we came to the table together, I knew that every one of us was here to make sure that transit could be the best it could be for the region. I never questioned that from anyone. And it was a pleasure trying to make that happen. And honestly, looking back at September 2021, which was a very challenging period, actually October, it got even more challenging. Thinking back to the pandemic, coming back out of that, all the changes that we've experienced since that time, and looking at where Metro is today, culminating in the award of the American Public Transportation Association as Transit Agency of the Year. This team is phenomenal, and I have great confidence in what you're going to do going forward. I do want to give a shout out to the board secretary and staff of that office because their support was essential throughout this whole time. I know you all have had a long meeting, so I'll stop there, but really my deepest thanks.
And I will just say, on behalf of the whole, the staff, especially the management team, who obviously worked with you very closely, I guess we'll say Sarah, no longer Director Klein. A couple things. One is, I'll always remember you were one of the individuals that I had the chance to interview with and have conversations about all those challenges and what we could potentially come up with together. And so I'm immensely proud of and really thankful for all the work working with you. You know, the Metro Access part is a really important thing. I have that as a note. The part that I think that for the staff is how much you push us to think and your commitment to transparency and data and driving this place through that lens, not politicizing, but like what is the right thing to do and using data and good analysis. You're a very analytical person, and I think that is very helpful for our team to really see that. So I just love that you really love the transit industry, and everyone knows that. So just, we miss you and we appreciate all your service.
Next, we will recognize Director Martin Proctor. Whereas Camilla Martin Proctor faithfully represented the federal government as a principal director on the Metro Board of Directors from September 2021 through September 2025. And whereas Ms. Martin Proctor's distinguished service on the Metro Board concluded effective September 7th of this year. And whereas during her tenure on the board, Ms. Martin Proctor served on the board's Safety and Operations Committee, including serving as the committee's vice chair from September 2021 through September 2025. And whereas Ms. Martin Proctor's work on the Safety and Operations Committee focused on ensuring that Metro services were not just accessible to all, but inclusive and focused serving meeting riders' diverse needs. And whereas Ms. Martin Proctor's service on the board also concentrating on connecting Metro with the community, in particular youth and high school students, through her attendance to Metro's Youth Advisory Council meetings, and with the broader community through her enthusiastic participation at Metro events. And whereas during her tenure on the board, Ms. Martin Proctor helped elevate the need for Metro to be integrated with the community it serves and championed greater inclusivity in Metro's programs and processes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Metro Board of Directors offers its sincere gratitude to Camilla Martin Proctor for her exemplary service and leadership as a member of the board. And be it further resolved that the Metro Board of Directors commends Ms. Martin Proctor for her dedication to enhancing safety, service quality, and regional mobility for the benefit of all WMATA customers in the region. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Rye. All in favor? Aye. Resounding ayes. Ms. Martin Proctor, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, good afternoon, team. It is honestly a pleasure to be back here. You know, I remember when I first got the call at that point, it was from both the Pauls at that point. It was from Paul Wiedefeld and from Paul Medberg. And I was like, are you sure you have the right number? Because I'm the person that's always standing up at the meeting saying, this is not accessible. Why are there no ramps? Why are you not doing more with regards to making sure individuals with low vision and mobility issues are part of the conversation? And they said, okay, stop yelling at us. Please join the board and see what we can do to move those questions and that process forward. It was truly a pleasure to be in service to that, to Actually come here and see the extent of everything that WMATA does, not just with regards to transportation, which I think should be accessible and inclusive for all, but connecting with the community with regards to art, connecting with the community with regards to music, making sure that the youth know that there is a pipeline to becoming an engineer with WMATA and with Metro, and making sure that we have that connection with the DC public school system. I want to give a special thanks and blessing to my youth council for allowing me to join and be part of that team. Thank you, Jose, and thank you, John. Thank you, my pretty pink suit lady, Miss Jennifer. As you guys know, my children have been involved in these things, and so they have special names for all of you. You have been part of their growing up with regards to transportation and how that has become part of their language moving forward. I want to give a special thank you to our fourth honorary federal board member, current board member April Rye. You guys don't know this, but we would meet as a quad at least once, twice a week to discuss various topics going on with WMATA and how we were going to move those things forward in conjunction with what we felt, as noted by Dr. Helfer and Director Klein, that was equitable, accessible, and inclusive for all with an analytical lens. And of course, for Dr. Lowe, making sure that we had the right numbers in place before we wanted to present anything. It truly has been a pleasure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Michael, everybody here. It has been an honor. And I'm not going anywhere. I will definitely be back to make sure that we will steer moving forward with that access. Thank you, Chairman Santos. Thank you, Director Clark.
Well, again, I'll take a quick second and just, again, on behalf of the whole staff and the management team, really appreciate you. Also, one of the individuals I had the opportunity to come and have a discussion about coming to this fun adventure with. The part, and you'll see the little gift that we have from the staff for you. When I think of you, I just think about community. That's the word that resonates with me. And you tried to bring some joy, but seriousness at the same time. The seriousness of the youth program and how we are a conduit to jobs and how do we connect to people and how important accessibility is, that all people are treated fairly inside of our public transportation system. But then you try to bring joy, especially with the public art piece. And we have a piece around the corner that will always be part of your contribution to this organization. So just great to see you again, and thanks for all of your service to Metro.
Last and certainly not least, we will recognize alternate director Bryna Helfer. Whereas Bryna Helfer faithfully represented the federal government as the alternate director on the Metro Board of Directors from September 2021 to September 2025. And whereas Dr. Helfer's distinguished service on the Metro Board concluded effective September 7th of this year. And whereas, as alternate director, Dr. Helfer found opportunities to put her extensive background and experience in community engagement to work, broadening Metro's outreach to riders in the larger community. And whereas Dr. Helfer leveraged her community engagement experience to serve as the board's liaison to the Riders Advisory Council, enhancing its governance and strengthening its focus to serve as a trusted link between Metro and its riders. Whereas Dr. Helfer herself was an enthusiastic participant in Metro's outreach activities, including extensive participation in outreach for Metro's Better Bus Network redesign. And whereas Dr. Helfer recognized the value of partnerships between Metro and stakeholders and worked diligently to expand those partnerships, including to promote and support the MetroLift low-income fare program. And whereas, as an advocate for individuals with disabilities, during her service on the board, Dr. Helfer worked to ensure that riders of Metro's paratransit service, Metro Access, receive the dependable service they deserve. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Metro Board of Directors offers its sincere gratitude to Bryna Helfer for her exemplary service and leadership as a member of our board, and be it further resolved that the Metro Board of Directors commends Dr. Helfer for her dedication to enhancing safety, service quality, and regional mobility for the benefit of all WMATA customers in the region, and be it finally resolved, all right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right.
Oh,
Thank
that
you,
was so
Dr.
funny because I
Rowe.
was waiting for that all right. So thank you. I just really quick. First to the board for allowing me to bring just do a lot of work as an alternate director. We've all had this conversation about the role of alternate directors, and I think we all know now that there's a lot that we can get done, not just being on the dais. Thanks to my federal team, we are a family. Thanks to the board staff. I know you guys are excited not to get 20 texts and emails from me. And to Randy, to the entire WMATA team, it's been just really fun. And for giving me an all right and a few major, including the Silver Line. To Pat Sheehan and the entire accessibility committee. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, you guys are so dedicated, and just the keeping all of our intentionality on making sure that every aspect of our system is accessible. And to William and to the RAC, it has been my greatest joy and pleasure to work with you guys. And I hope that I would just ask that the board moving forward remembers those rider voices, all rider voices at all times, at all levels, and that, they know a lot about what's going on in the system, and they can help us be a partner with us along the way. So thank you, everyone, and all right.
So I'll just quickly say, the fun story that you referenced, and that's what I was going to say, so it's kind of funny, was Silver Line opening. I have Secretary of Transportation, 2 United States senators, multiple members of Congress, the mayor, all these people, and you're like looking at me, and out of nowhere I drop an all right, and they're looking at me like, who is this crazy person running Metro? And you were like, yeah, and everyone else is freezing. So listen, there's no words that I can really say. I was literally just had one word written, all right. And there's just thank you. You've been a great board member. Appreciate you.
Can we gather in the front for pictures and fun stuff? I have one more item of business in my report this morning, which is appointment of members to our reappointment of members to our Writers Advisory Council. I would like to move approval of a resolution to make the following reappointments to the RAC, which is reappointing Cole Stout and Thomas Shepard from the District of Columbia, reappointing Solomon Chen and Hendeke Tafesi from Commonwealth of Virginia, and reappointing Eli Crevero Frankel and Brandon Wu to serve at large. All appointments would be for 2 years through December of 2027. Can I get a second? Thank you, Director McAndrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That item passes. Before I close out, I'd like to announce that Metro is offering free rides on bus and rail on New Year's Eve from 5 p.m. until system closing at 2 a.m. So we encourage everyone to ride Metro and stay safe on New Year's Eve. Please don't drink and drive. On behalf of the board, have a joyous holiday season. Our next board day, public board day, will be Thursday, January 15th. And I will now turn over the floor to our general manager for his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Go relatively quickly here. First up, I just want to mention I was fortunate to be invited to the Capital Region Transportation Forum by both the Board of Trade and Greater Washington Partnership. I want to thank Jack and Kathy for that invitation. It was at GW University, of which I gave the annual State of Metro. Want to also recognize Brian Hill and Clark Mercer. This was a chance to really close out DMV moves, and with Nick Donahue, who's now just been named the new Secretary of Transportation Virginia, really mentioning all of their efforts to bring that forward, of which both our budget and modernization program all align with. So they put a lot of effort over the last year and a half, and just wanted to make sure they're recognized. To me, I ended this very, what I thought was pretty clear when you normally have a state of something, that I believe the state of Metro is strong, but we are at a critical point. Are we going to be strong, becoming top of world class, or are we going backwards? And I think our capital program shows the branch in the road we are at. But I will say, maybe I'm always an optimist. I feel very confident that our regional elected leaders and our community at large can see that. I think we presented very well as a team over the last year and a half. And I feel very confident in the next upcoming legislative session, we are going to go on the branch that gets us to be that world-class system that everyone here is so proud of and inspires to be. So we all got a lot of work to do to make that happen in FY20 or in calendar year 26, and we can work hard to make it happen. Next up is I want to highlight our joint development program, and we've been luckily, we've been on fire because it's been so cold with this. See what I did there? So yesterday, I'm happy to report, was our third joint development real estate event in the last 3 weeks. We had one at West Falls Church, and Board Member Alcorn was there, and that is an incredible opportunity to transform that area. With multiple parcels, and really the Fairfax community is really, again, we're there to help our Fairfax partner make that happen, and it's going to be really good for the area and for Metro. Another one was, and Board Member McAndrew was there, it was at New Carrollton, and what is great about this one, it was really focused on senior affordable housing within a mixed development. And again, if you haven't been to New Carrollton recently, what is happening there is just a sight to see. It's one of the, really, it's a major transit hub, and it's just now getting filled in, and the future is so bright there. Great collaboration between the state and Prince George's County. I want to really recognize Senator Augustine. He was the one that really started this thing, quite frankly, when he was on the Metro board. He did the compact hearing. So I'm really happy for him to see something that he's put a lot of work into to have that event. And then, of course, we can't wait for the groundbreaking to happen, or sorry, the ribbon cutting to happen. Yesterday, Board Member Jarvis, I was fortunate that we were able to go do this together. I thought it was cold. She didn't think it was that cold. We did it at Grosvenor, not Grosvenor, which is, if you're wondering, there's no S in Grosvenor. It's taken me a long time to figure that out. But I want to recognize Council Member Kate Stewart and we had the Secretary of Aging with us again. So perfect example of state and local government with Metro all working together with private sector developer. And this is for a 200 unit, also senior living building that's part of the mixed development with Strathmore. So just fantastic way to provide affordability, not needing a car, and great place for people as they age. So just want to really recognize Nia, Andy, and the whole real estate team and the JDAC team under Teresa. They are working incredibly hard to help our partners with development. And I know we're going to have a great 2026 as well with so many queued up. Next up is winter weather preparedness. A couple quick things. One, we've done extensive preparation for winter weather. I didn't expect it to be this early, but so be it. We have had a little bit of uptick in rail cracks and rail breaks. That's not to be totally unexpected when the weather changes that quickly and significantly. The good thing is we've been flushing them out quickly, and the infrastructure team has done a really good job of detecting them, which means our track inspections and our technology is working really well. And I appreciate the hard work they're doing. We ask customers to follow Metro Pulse and all of our other channels for alerts. One thing we're doing a little differently this year, and we think this will actually lead to better bus service during snow and ice events, is that normally we used to have different levels and for snow and ice, and we just literally say all of these routes aren't running and all these ones are, and then we try to transition them as blocks. Now what we're doing is we're trying to be much more specific on those individual routes, so we know the conditions to try to run service with the assistance of our jurisdictional partners, whether it's plowing or salting, sanding. And what we think this will do, it's a little bit more work on our end internally for that granularity, but we should be able to actually restore service faster and provide better service, especially for people that are truly bus connected where the rail system might work for them. So we hope this goes really well for the winter, and we'll keep everyone updated if we need any improvement on that. Lastly, Metro, as usual, is trying to bring some joy to the holiday season. Board Member Lowe uses that word a lot, and I think that the staff actually loves that word because, as we all know, this can be a challenging place from time to time, and it's a very serious place, but we also try to bring some joy. So we have our wraps back for this year. You can follow them on our tracker. We call it the sweetest ride of the year, and it's gingerbread and candy canes and all of the other kind of stuff. But bus, rail, and Metro access vehicles are out on the system, and it does bring a lot of joy. The other part on this is I wanted to mention our both online store, but our holiday pop-up, and really just give an incredible kudos to Sarah and Georgetta and the whole team and what they put together here. This is our third year doing this. Every year keeps blowing our minds away of how much the community loves Metro and shows the support for Metro. We had 1,200 holiday sweaters, of which we've sold out in, I think, 8 or 9 days. We have our backup holiday sweater, which we thought we were going to be able to fill the gap, and that's our fun little Metro Panda one that will be going on sale soon. But we have days where people were literally waiting to get into the store. And to me, the takeaway there is just how much we mean to the community, and therefore the pressure on us to deliver really well for everybody. A unique thing that we came up with the store at the team was we were using light duty employees that can't be out doing the regular job to work the store. So we don't have to hire staff or contractors, and we allow our frontline staff to interact with our customers and work this kind of retail storefront. And when I go in and talk to someone that's worked here for 20 years and they see people buying hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, the feeling for employees to say how proud they are and respect that they feel, I think there's a cultural element of that where they go back to their divisions and say, you won't believe this. I work this store and people want to buy all the stuff that we wear. So I really just want to highlight, it's a great way to end our year on just the community approach here at Metro. So lastly, just happy holidays to the board, to all of our stakeholders, many are in the room, but especially to our staff, and especially staff that will work through very cold weather and on holidays. Just appreciate what you do every day. You're doing a fantastic job, and I hope you get a couple moments of safe, quiet time away from Metro. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Clerk? Now on to our executive committee report and consent items. So the following item was referred to the board at this morning's executive committee meeting, which is the adoption of the 2025 update to Metro's strategic transformation plan. Staff sought acceptance of the public participation report on the public hearing and associated outreach for updates to Metro's strategic transformation plan and adoption of the updated STP or strategic transformation plan, which will guide Metro's strategy and actions through 2028. I would like to move approval. Can I please get a second? Thank you, Director McAndrew. Is there any discussion about the STP? I will ask our Chief Board Affairs Officer to call a vote.
Chair Santos,
Aye.
Vice Chair Smedberg, Vice Chair McAndrew.
Aye.
Alternate Director Rye,
Aye.
Director Lowe,
Aye.
Director Alcorn,
Aye.
Director Jarvis.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. And I will now turn the floor over to Mr. McAndrew for the report by the Finance and Capital Committee.
Thank you, Chair Santos. The following item was referred to the board at this morning's Finance and Capital Committee meeting. Authorization for public hearings on Metro's proposed FY27 operating budget, the FY27 through 32 capital improvement program, and associated service changes. Staff sought approval to conduct compact public hearings on Metro's proposed FY27 operating budget and the FY27 through 32 capital improvement program and associated service changes. Hearings, one in person and two virtual, are currently planned for the first week of February. Madam Chair, I move approval. That includes my report. Oh, wait.
You need a second.
I need a second. Wow.
All right, Mr. McAndrew has moved approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. Is there any discussion? All right, I will ask our Chief Board Affairs Officer to call the vote.
Chair Santos.
Aye.
Vice Chair McAndrew.
Aye.
Alternate Director Rye,
Aye.
Director Lowe,
Aye.
Director Alcorn,
Aye.
Director Jarvis.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Now on to our consent agenda items. We have two items on the consent agenda today. I would like to move approval of the following. Approval to apply for Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, NVTC, I-66 Commuter Choice Grant. Staff requests board approval for the general manager or his designee to apply for a commuter choice grant administered by the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, or NVTC. The commuter choice program invests toll revenues into transit and multimodal projects that benefit users within the corridor. The grant being applied for would fund limited stop peak period Metrobus service along the Leesburg Pike and Arlington Boulevard corridors. The second item is authorization to issue an unlimited public service monthly pass in collaboration with TransServe. Staff is requesting authorization to issue self-service unlimited Metrorail and Metrobus pass product for eligible public sector employees. The unlimited nature of the pass would simplify program administration and potentially grow both ridership and revenue. I will move approval. Can I please get a second? Thank you, Director McAndrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now on to our jurisdictional reports. Let's see if there are any. NVTC?
Just a couple quick things. First of all, the general manager mentioned Nick Donahue as the new Secretary of Transportation. Congratulations to Nick. That's, I think, good news. And I also wanted to thank the outgoing Secretary of Transportation, Shep Miller. Shep, there was a lot of interaction he had with WMATA over the years, and including the continuation of Paul Smedberg's appointment. I know he had a role in that, and I think that continuity was very helpful during those years. And then finally, I want to mention there is an annual legislative forum coming up on transit that NVTC, PRTC, and VRE are co-sponsoring. It's coming up this Monday morning at the George Mason campus in Arlington. Look forward to seeing a lot of folks there and having good discussions with our General Assembly members as we move into this really important General Assembly session this coming year. So thank you.
Thank you. WSTC? Nada? Okay. April.
Just one more acknowledgement to my federal colleagues, and thank them so much for their service. That's all.
With no further business to come before the board, we stand adjourned, and we will resume our executive committee executive session from this morning. Thank you for joining us today.